buddy.
If you don't want to fight me, then why?
Why what?
What's all this for?
Why was I looking for you?
Yeah.
Sit down. Sit down, grab a snack, make yourself comfortable. Huh? Oh, hey, you okay? Wait, can you keep this up? Sit on the crack. Sit on the crack of the couch, okay?
Greetings to everybody out there in podcast land. Welcome to another episode of Black and White Reviews, your unofficial home for everything fanny packs, hot dog fingers, and bagels. My name is Will.
Greetings, Earthlings. My name is Lee.
Greetings, Earthlings.
And as usual, I'm Chuck.
Oh, you changed it up a little bit, as usual.
As usual.
I'm happy for you.
With me, as always, is Garth. What are we doing today, Will? What's going on here?
Today we're talking about the 2022 film Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything
All at
Everywhere
Runch.
All at Once. Written and directed by Daniel Wan. And Daniel, I am not going to attempt to pronounce his last name. I'm actually going to throw to Lee to pull up the cast listing for this movie because I'm going to butcher a lot of these. So if you would be so kind to give it a shot.
First of all, it's
Pull up
not
IMDb. Pull up IMDb.
Just pull up IMDb.
Hold on.
And read
You
this
just
cast. Michelle.
You gotta do
Let's
it.
just-
You gotta do it
let's
as
just-
if you gotta do it as if you have hot dog fingers.
We'll get to the hot dog fingers.
No, I just want to say
Because
everything, everywhere, all at runts.
Runts, yeah.
That was the most racist thing you've ever sasaid. Everything.
I wasn't even
everywhere,
thinking about it like that.
All at runts.
I wasn't even thinking about it like that.
Okay. You want me to go through the cast listing here?
Just a little bit to see if you can do a better job than I would.
Michelle Yeoh,
Yo.
Stephanie Su,
Okay.
Ki Hu Kwan,
Yeah.
who we know him as Short Round or Data from Goonies. James Hong is in this, and I'm so
Which is
happy James
amazing.
Hong.
Which is
I'm so
amazing that
happy that James Hong is in this. I love James Hong. James Hong, I've loved him since Wayne's World 2. I know he's been in everything else, including Big Trouble Little China, everything else before that. But I mean, the reality is James Hong he's such a joke on Asian culture. I mean, he's popped up in even we talked about Blade Runner. He was in Blade Runner too. He is the American actor for everything Asian. And he always pops up and he's just the funniest dude. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, I walked into this movie not knowing too much and seeing Jamie Lee Curtis's name and not expecting her to be this Deirdre character she played.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I
Yes.
thought it was amazing. She was perfect. She fit the part. Every part she played, perfect. Jenny Slate was here. On Randy Newman? Wait. Oh my. I didn't even notice this, but Randy Newman was Rakuni.
Was he really?
It was Randy Newman.
That's crazy. To put Randy Newman in a movie is absolutely insane.
And never mind the fact that it's Rakakuni, which every time they said Rakakuni, I couldn't stop laughing. Never mind, just her basic just misunderstanding of everything. Rakakuni, it was like a cheap version of Ratatouille. Go Chewbacca, all the different random names she called everything, all the different characters there. But yeah, honestly, we there's a great cast listing here.
So the only thing I know this woman from, Michelle Yeoh, was the 007 movie with Pierce Brosnan. She was in one of those. I don't remember.
Wasn't she in
one.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
If she was, I don't remember because I've only seen that
She
movie
was like
once.
she was like the main character in it, I believe.
Okay.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Yes.
Crazy
Yep.
Rich Asians.
Yep.
Never saw it.
Minions. A few other things.
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
What's she?
Yep.
Who was she in Shang-Chi?
Ying Nan.
Ying Nan.
Sure.
That explains everything, right?
Exactly.
Sorry, but
Hey, we haven't talked about Shang-Chi. We should do that movie.
Hey, no,
Shush.
we shouldn't.
never again.
We tried.
For those of you who don't understand,
3 times.
we have talked about this movie 3 times.
Twice.
And every time.
We tried recording that movie twice.
Are you sure it wasn't 3?
It was twice. And it wouldn't, and we all refused to do a third. Like, that movie is cursed. We're not going to do it. It's not.
We
it's not
enjoyed the
gonna
movie.
happen.
Just so we all
it
know,
was a good movie.
we enjoyed the movie, but we just don't want to talk about it ever again.
Guys, my
Like,
recording just
ever
stopped.
again. Shush.
I'm just kidding. Figured talking
Hello,
about
my
that
name is
movie
Chuck.
prevented my recording to stop.
Anyways, so thank you very much, Lee, for going through the cast listing for this film, because I would have butchered half of those names. The only thing that I want to get into before we get going with the movie is something that we've all talked about, how Hollywood is so saturated with the idea of what's going to make money, right? All the time. That is what big budget Hollywood is now. Proven commodities that are absolutely going to guarantee a return. A24 Films is an indie studio that has put out some of the best movies of the past decade. I don't know
so name
when
I
bring
them up.
Let me finish. I don't know when we're ever going to talk about another indie film like this, but just to note, just some recommendations from the studio alone. A Most Violent Year was amazing. Chuck, you've mentioned before that you have a new appreciation for Jake Gyllenhaal. I recommend that you watch a movie that he did called Enemy, which is absolutely fantastic. If you're into anything sci-fi or sci-fi-esque, check out Ex Machina. Swiss Army Man was so surprising, was such a surprisingly good movie. I couldn't contain myself when I was watching that. The Disaster Artist is another one. It's basically the story of the making of The Room, which is ridiculous that a movie like that even exists. Yes. The Lighthouse.
Oh, man, I never saw it.
The Lighthouse that came out a couple of years ago is fantastic. 2019's Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler.
That was A24?
Adam Sandler killed it in that movie. And I cannot believe that sentence just came out of my mouth. He was amazing in that film. And last year they released a movie called Tragedy of Macbeth. Also, and I know the two of you won't be into it, I still am because I still love horror movies. X was fabulous from top to bottom. It's gross and disgusting and horrific, and I loved it.
X?
Yes.
Jason Voorhees in space.
Excuse me? No, Jason. No Jason.
No Jason.
No Jason X.
No Jason. Stop it. The point is that this studio is actually doing things a lot differently, because of those movies I've mentioned, there's also a lot of other movies that I didn't like, but they just did it just to do it. They're actually making movies. They're taking chances, and I think it's incredible. And I just wanted to shout that studio for not only doing this movie, but a slew of others that I've really enjoyed over the past several years. I loved it. So, to get started with this, Chuck and I did an off-the-cuff thing that I released a couple of weeks ago, and we slightly touched on this. Lee wasn't here for that, so I'm going to start with you. What did you think about Everything Everywhere All at Once?
So it's funny because I feel like I was the first one to know about this movie existing. I was like, hey, this looks like we should probably watch this at some point. And then you said it one day. I'm like, yes. We need to watch this movie and talk about it, because it seemed like, from what I saw, it was going to be amazing. But it was coming out around the same time as Multiverse of Madness. So I was like, okay, well then it's like this independent version of this. But then as it came out more, I'm getting rave reviews saying this is what we all should have seen. And I'm like, whoa, okay, we need to watch this movie.
This movie is so much better than Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely
this
it
movie
is.
Amazing.
So it definitely has the indie feel, but it has a Hollywood budget. All right. Well, I would say next to a Hollywood budget. certain things that happen in it, you can tell they made the choice to do it the way they did it, as opposed to go just like full on crazy Hollywood budget look.
Right.
You know, so I like that they did that. And that's why I like, you know, it's been a long time since I've sat and watched indie stuff, just because, you know, we've been so focused on everything MCU and Star Wars, which is not indie. So to go back and take that moment to watch something that has this feel to it, I mean, I guess you could almost say that Knives Out kind of felt like this as well. It kind of had that indie feel to it,
Kinda.
in a way.
Kinda. Knives
but-
Out was different.
Yeah, it was very different.
Knives Out was very
So-
different.
But I would say that this is I was so happy with this. Like, everything about this movie was not what I expected, which is perfect. I wanted to watch a movie and not and be like, what are they gonna do? I want to be shocked, and I was shocked the entire time.
Yes.
I loved it. I loved it. It's like, you know, you get an everything bagel and it has everything.
Yeah.
I'm actually eating an everything cracker right now.
Okay.
So
Does that wrap up your
That's
thoughts? 'Cause
that wraps up my thoughts.
Okay, Chuck, you want to go next? You want to, you know, I mean, we talked about it before, but now we can go into a little bit more detail about it. We didn't.
Wow. When I was thinking multiverse, what they gave me is not what I was expecting.
Not at
However,
all.
it was fantastic how they did it. I do have some questions on how it all works in one scene. But outside of that, it was so crazy. Just they pushed the limits on everything. On everything. I mean, they even come to a place where they have a scene in a mountain range with two rocks, and it is dead silent for 2.5 minutes, and it's so captivating.
It's part of it's one of the most compelling scenes in the movie, where
And you're like,
two rocks,
oh my
and it's
gosh.
just subtitles.
And
What?
it's amazing.
What?
It's
Oh my god!
And I tried to go back and watch Multiverse of Madness, and
It's not gonna work.
I still can't.
It's
I
not
can't.
gonna work. After seeing this, I
was looking for more. Like, I will say, what I would love to see is having a multiverse where you have multi of the same people. That didn't happen in this film, but I wasn't disappointed because of how they did it. It still introduced all the other characters of her, of him. It introduced, you know, the way it makes it happen. You have to do this crazy stuff. Eat something, sit on something, you know, whatever the case may be. It was, I don't know. I haven't seen a movie like this in a long time. I love they threw me off halfway through the film when they said the end.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? And then it continued. I was like, oh, because part 1 was everything. Part 2 was everywhere. So then it was like, I get it. But overall, I think it was such a, half of it was in subtitles, so that was a little bit harder. But overall, it was a fantastic movie to watch. I loved the real life props that were used through most of the film. I loved the fight scenes. I loved all of it. It was perfect. It was fantastic.
So the closest thing that I can't compare this movie to anything.
Neither
This
can I.
is unlike anything that I've ever seen.
I can't look at it and say, wow, like this compares to. It doesn't, because
you can tell that they're taking elements from other movies. You can tell that they're ripping on The Matrix. They're ripping on either one of the Kill Bills. Pick which one ever you want to.
But they're doing it gracefully though, and with
yes.
couth. They're not just ripping on it. They're bringing it in, and they're actually nodding to it in a really good way. Yeah, in my opinion.
You're absolutely right. But other than that, it's such a breath of fresh air, and I love it because it's an original concept. Using sci-fi like this and the way that the multiverse works is absolutely ridiculous, and I'm there for it. They don't get bogged down by the science of it. They don't get bogged down on, well, this makes sense, but this doesn't. They don't get bogged down by things like time travel, and I don't care because of how hilarious it is. This is fantastic.
Nothing in this movie ties into time travel, though.
No, but you can see other movies have tried to do. Okay, so like Multiverse of Madness, they're kind of tap dancing on the time travel thing, and anything else that you see where you have a multiverse or anything that's grandiose in sci-fi, they usually try to touch on something that has to do with time travel. And here, they're not touching on time travel; they're just showing pieces of time that are kind of out of sync.
Well, they're all in sync. It's just, okay, if you, at this point in time, you made this decision versus this decision, and this is the life that you would have lived, and these are now out of all of these decisions, these are the parallel lifespans that are happening if those decisions were made. That's how I took the branching off, is every decision created a new branch, for lack of better terms from Loki.
I agree with you, but they're still doing this thing where they have separate universes going on
at the same time,
but you have no ground of when they're taking place and how. That's what I mean. It's
all at the same time, because as she's doing it, you even see it as she's doing what she's doing in this universe. She's bouncing back and forth from the universe that she's taken that conscience from. So she's bouncing back and forth. It's happening simultaneously.
I guess so.
In each one that's happening. That's why it's everything, everywhere.
Yeah, fine.
All at once.
Okay. And I will say this movie was a chore to take notes for, because every 5 minutes something different happens. Normally when you're watching a movie, you get your basic, 3 or 4 act structure. And you have the first act where you have maybe a couple of big plot points and so on, and you go forward. This, every 5 to 10 minutes, something massive happened that changed the way that I'm watching this movie. And I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to do. It almost to the point where I'm kind of intimidated to even read what I have written down. This is a serious undertaking, so I don't know what we want to do, but we're just going to go ahead and go for it. Wow. Just wow. I love this movie.
Was it as difficult taking notes as it was for Memento, or?
Along those lines, yeah. This one was difficult because you get to the point. So at the beginning of the movie, we get the basic rundown of all of the characters. We are introduced to Evelyn, and she's juggling a lot of things that are going on in her life. Her laundromat, her father's breakfast, planning some party for later on that night. Her husband is trying to serve her with divorce papers. Her daughter, who is Joy, which we will talk about much more later on. And
go Chewbacca.
And her girlfriend.
Yep.
Okay. So in the beginning of this movie, where we're going through everything, Evelyn is the atypical character who's not very receptive to anything that's going on outside. She's very much focused on her work and focused on pleasing her father, and that's it. She's not showing her daughter any kind of affection. She's not showing her husband any kind of affection, which is why he wants a divorce. On the daughter end, she basically, we learn this much later, but she basically just wants to be done with this whole ordeal with her mother. It goes into a lot more detail than that, but my God, things in Evelyns life become incredibly chaotic as the movie moves on. No? Nothing from either one of you? Okay.
No, I thought I want to let you finish, because this is she goes into her apartment is above this laundromat that she works at. At least that's how it seems.
Yeah.
And it comes back to this opening scene multiple times throughout the movie. And I also want to add that she's also, on top of everything that's going on in her life and how busy things are, she's also, preparing her taxes because she's being audited by the IRS.
Yeah, which we find out later she was just doing a bunch of shady stuff and counting it all as business. Well, shady. It's just she was being frivolous with her business expenses and buying karaoke machines because she likes to sing and whatnot. Like she was doing some dumb stuff.
She said that she was doing it based off of the tax person at the IRS building.
Kinda.
She's like, you told me to do this, and then she's not having it. It was a twisted situation. But basically what I gathered from this whole, I don't know, what was it? 15, 20 minutes from the beginning till she's sitting in the tax office, the IRS building, and everything starts happening. Basically what it's showing you is her life is falling apart around her. And she is about to just crash and burn. And then her husband, for lack of better words, intervenes.
For lack of better words.
Intervenes. The first real scene where we see that something is up. She's having a conversation with her daughter, and she's basically just complaining about her husband and how he's putting googly eyes all over everything, and he's all trying to play games and just a whole bunch of other nonsense. And we see on the monitors behind her of the cameras that are stations all throughout the laundromat, and this man takes off his glasses and starts doing parkour throughout the entire laundromat for some reason.
Yep.
It's we don't know what's up yet, but we'll get there.
He went from this he's like this
docile,
calm, just
not
to now he's like martial arts and parkour.
I don't want to get too stereotypical, but he basically turns into Jackie Chan in the middle of this laundromat. Yep. There's no other way for me to say it.
What I love is this guy played this part so well because he bounced back and forth beautifully.
Oh my God.
And when you're looking at him, you're not looking at him going, this guy is like a martial arts expert. But the guy's insane. He's insane.
So Evelyn's downstairs and all this chaos is going on around her. And she turns to the TV where she gets distracted by a musical that's going on, which comes back up a little bit later. Suddenly, Evelyn's father appears and he's complaining about his lack of breakfast. Did I say breakfast? Breakfast. I apologize. It is 100 degrees right now, and I don't have my AC on because we're recording this thing, so excuse me. So Joy demonstrates how horrid her Chinese is by asking her grandfather how his airplane is, which I thought was hilarious. Just the subtitles in this movie was something else to behold. It was incredible. She tries to introduce her girlfriend, but her mother, Evelyn, intervenes and just says, oh, this is her friend, her very, very good friend, which is not the right thing to do in that situation at all. Nope. Joy tries to leave and Evelyn follows after her, and we think we're going to get somewhat of a tender moment, but instead of that, she basically just tells her that you need to watch what you're eating because you're getting fat.
I love it. I love it. It's horrible. It's like you can see that she's just like she's just not caring anymore. She's just like, whatever. It almost feels like she's not getting anything that she wants in life.
Nope,
and
not at all.
Everything is so she's just gonna rip on everybody around her because of it.
She is disappointed. She just a lack of everything. She just seems like the kind of person that isn't living up to her own expectations or her potential or the potential that her father, which is a big plot of the movie, comes up. It's a thing that happens, parents to kids to yep. That's the whole point of this movie, and I'm sure that
especially
we're
in Asian culture.
You're right.
Especially in Asian culture.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Well, I was gonna say I have a friend, and I was training him. He's Korean, and I was training him on a certain job. And at one point, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna be like. I said to him like, hey. I'm not your friend right now. I'm teaching you. I'm training you. So I'm going to let you go through this. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. And then I'm going to let you take it over and do it. And as he was doing it, I'm like, nope, hold on. You messed this up. Go back. And I'm like, nope, hold on. You messed this up. Go back. Nope. Where do you think you messed up here? Okay. What do you need to do to fix it? Okay. And I showed him. And he came back and he was like, hey, listen, a few days ago when you were training me, I was kind of triggered by something, and it reminded me of my mother teaching me back when I was a kid. It was a huge trigger for him because it became this big deal. I'm like, whoa. He's like, yeah, his mom was like basically cracked the whip. Like, no, you screwed up. You're horrible. Go back and do it again. So there is a huge push for children in Asian culture to live up to a certain expectation. No, you need to be better than that. It was all about. It seemed like it's more about responsibility, productivity, efficiency than it is about like, you know, letting the child kind of grow up to walk through what they need to walk through and to learn, you know, on their own, all the things they have to go through. But it was more about, no, you did it wrong. Here's the way you have to do it. Let's just keep going this way. So in her situation here, where she's just doing a laundromat thing, like she's already feeling like a failure. So she sees her daughter. She goes, you're getting too fat. Like she just, it's like, what does a normal Asian woman say? You're getting too fat. Stop being fat. Okay, move on.
I guess
because
so.
she doesn't know how to tell her daughter, I love you and I care about you, and I want to make sure you're okay.
I do like how, and this is just a testament to Evelyn and the actress's, you know, chops in this movie. Immediately after she says you're getting fat and Joy gets in the car and drives away, she immediately looks guilty. I love little touches like that. I thought that was amazing. Anyways, Evelyn goes back upstairs, sits back down. She continues to do her taxes, and her husband says, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?" And we get these big subtitle across the screen that says everything, accompanied by blaring horns. I want to say that the experimental rock band that did a lot of the score for this movie is called Sun Lux. They are fantastic. I've been a fan of them for a few years now, so I really recommend checking them out. They did a really good job with the score of this movie. They nailed it. So
I like it.
Good for you. Yeah, okay. I've never heard you really comment on anything like musically before, so that's
no. I'm not a huge music person. I think the score of a movie can make or break a movie, big time. And I think you're right. In this movie, the score went along with it. The music fit very, very well. They did a great job.
Like when they replaced that Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee scene with Careless Whisper. And, you know, as they're getting ready to fight, they're taking off their robes, and it's like... Yeah, they changed that whole thing right up. But then again, you know, music can make or break. But if you can make a movie like A Quiet Place and have no music... And still be able to instill that type of fear.
Score in that movie wouldn't work.
No, that movie was all about having no score. Yes, and it was fantastic. The second movie they had a lot more audio because they were talking and you know, hiding out here and there, and there was like music playing on headphones and whatnot. But still done very well.
Even if you had like the subtle dun-duns in the background of that movie, that still wouldn't work. Absolutely not.
Not at all.
Like typical horror movie, you know, spooky, ominous. That would have destroyed that movie.
It would have.
I have to admit, I haven't seen either of them yet.
Oh.
And I've heard nothing but good
we talked about them. We talked about them back.
We did them last October for like a Halloween thing. We wanted to do a couple of, you know, horror, scary, whatever, and we did both Quiet Place movies. I mean, they're great. They're great. They're not horror.
No, they're thriller.
They're thriller.
Like Seven. Seven was a thriller.
I wouldn't compare it to
more
Seven.
Like Signs.
I would compare it to something along, more like Signs than Seven.
Because Signs was a thriller.
Yeah, but Seven is not horror. Is Seven a thriller?
Seven's in the thriller category.
Seven's a murder mystery.
It's also
that's not a thriller. I would not classify Seven as a thriller.
It was quite thrilling.
Thanks for that input, Lee.
This is a tease. Anyways, Evelyn, her father, her husband, they all head off to the IRS building to get ready for their audit meeting. And they get on the elevator, and Wayman, he changes. He puts his head down, picks his head back up, and suddenly he pulls out a bagel-printed umbrella to block the camera that's on the elevator and tells Evelyn that you can either go to your IRS appointment or you can go to the janitor's closet. The choice is up to you. He puts some earpieces in her ear, writes down some notes on the back of the divorce papers, which comes
paperwork
up later. Types in some buttons on the phone, an app opens, and away we go. Evelyn sees her life literally flash before her eyes. She sees herself being born, the disappointment her father felt for her being a girl, being chastised by her father for leaving home with a silly boy, opening up the laundromat, wondering why her father won't call her back, getting pregnant, having problems with her daughter, ending with her arriving at the IRS building. Literally, her life flashed before her eyes in this moment.
It did. So this is the part where that comes up that I had a question about. Maybe you guys can help me out, but once we get there, I'll let you guys know.
So the new version of Wayman tells her some nonsense. The note happens, and not to even bother bringing this up to him later because he's not going to remember. And then Wayman changes back, and away we go to the auditing appointment. She does not go into the closet. She goes to the appointment. So we meet the auditor, Deirdre.
She hesitates, though. She hesitates for a moment.
But she doesn't go in. That's the point. She doesn't. She looks, but no, I'm going to go ahead and do this.
She looks, but didn't touch.
She keeps the earpieces in her ear, though. Like, she doesn't take them out. She just leaves them there, which is, okay. What are we doing?
They're like these big honking Bluetooths, from Bluetooth. 10 years ago.
Yes, old school Bluetooth.
The big Jabra things, you know.
Remember walking around with those things? It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I hated those.
Oh, man.
Anyways, the auditor, Deirdre, who was played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis looks ridiculous in this movie.
She is great.
She's fantastic.
She finally looks her age. No, listen, I'm not putting her down. I'm just saying, like, she's finally not trying. She's finally not trying to look like Jamie Lee Curtis, and she's just like, here's who I'd be if I was not a celebrity. And it makes sense. I mean, here's the reality.
Trading Places was almost 40 years ago. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, my.
That's insane.
Yes, it is. That movie was fantastic.
That movie's awesome.
That movie is great.
We should throw that on the list. I would love to talk Trading Places. Chuck, have you ever seen Trading Places?
That is probably...
It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my God, Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, they worked so well. They worked so
You could
well
tell that they
together.
had so much fun doing that together.
Oh, they had a blast.
They had a blast doing that movie together.
They had so much of a blast.
Anyways, like I was saying, Deirdre, she's not very happy with Evelyn. She's given her all types of grief about business expenses, and she's buying karaoke machines. She's trying to claim being a teacher for some reason. And blah, 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 gross negligence. Bottom line is Evelyn, she's in trouble. Evelyn is kind of checking out. She pulls out the instructions that she was given, and she does exactly what they say. She switches the shoes on her feet. She imagines herself in the closet. She closes her eyes and pushes the button once it turns green, and whoosh, she is sucked into the janitor's closet. But no, she wasn't. It was just actually her consciousness was sucked into another universe. And she's simultaneously in the world where she's at her audit and in another universe where she's in the closet with alternate Wayman. Am I getting this right?
It was very very interesting where she was they showed a shattered consciousness.
Yes.
Like they showed a split consciousness.
I will say this,
where she's half there and half here.
As much praise as I give this movie, it did not do a very good job of explaining that when it first happens.
No, but for us who've watched and understand it, yeah, we get it.
I get it. I just wish it felt like there should have been another step.
Yeah,
so this is
maybe.
If I remember correctly, she was wearing the same clothes in the janitor's closet that she was at the auditing appointment.
Yes.
Right.
So, and they show her like the chair rolling down the aisle of the auditing place and then into the back, like, and getting sucked into the janitor's closet. This is where I was like, I don't fully get what happened, because I was like, I understood the rest of it when she's like when they're drawing other consciousness to them and they're utilizing that at the same time. I get that.
That's why I'm saying this part, when they first do it, it kind of throws you off. They don't do a very good job of explaining what's going on. And the fact that she's wearing the same clothes doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, but my question is this. This is the one
This is a misstep. This
is the one question I have with the whole thing is he goes into it at this point and he's telling her that he's tried other versions of her, but she is the one.
Sure.
Oh, Jet Li.
Right. What makes the universe
if you
that she's
if you want to
in?
say that, go for it. I mean, that's another movie that this is kind of ripping on. The One.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's definitely that's
absolutely
sure.
But if she is the only one that can truly handle this, what makes her in this universe any different than her in other universes?
They get into that. They do get into that. She's so bad at everything that she can accomplish anything. This is a line in the movie.
That is the greatest cop-out, perfect answer ever. And I love that.
It's amazing.
So I will say about this character here. So the actress here, she is literally my mother's age. They were born the same year. And I look at this and I go, I mean, I love my mom, but I'm like, Mom, you could have been in this movie. And I think that's what I love about this. Like they took a woman who's 60 years old and put her in this role
and made her an action hero.
And she killed it. They killed it. They took a 60-year-old woman and made her, as you said, a sci-fi action hero. That's what makes this movie so great to me.
Yes.
And I remember seeing the trailer and saying, how is this going to work out? I'm like, I bet you this is going to be phenomenal.
Her acting chops alone sells this. Normally when I'm watching an action movie, I can look at the action scenes and go, oh, stunt double because that wig is all messed up. This person is not that tall. You were not built like that, sir. You have a mark that the actor does not have. I notice things like that. Here,
right,
it was really hard to tell.
Yeah,
it was really, really hard to tell when it was the
double.
actor. They come on, she's 60 years old. They absolutely use a stunt double.
I don't know.
Really?
Jackie Chan, Jet Li, those guys are still doing their crazy stuff at their age.
You really think she did all these stunts? I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
I'm pretty sure that Asian actors, when they're not acting, they just go into a cryo chamber somewhere and they just sit there.
This is okay.
Yeah, they're all. I think that she did her own stunts. I personally do.
I will be shocked.
She wasn't doing crazy stunts.
No.
But I think she.
I mean, they were crazy, but they weren't.
There's a scene later on in this movie where there's some amazing tricks being done with a shield. I don't think that was her.
Oh, what, the pizza spinner?
Yeah. There was some class A shenanigans going on with that.
I love the fact that they pulled in all these. It's like, oh, she spun a sign for a pizza place, and that is a combat move.
Yes,
okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yes, it makes perfect sense. So while she's in this closet, this alternate version of Wayman tells her there's a great evil in the world,
Alpha
and we
Wayman.
need your help to restore balance. Her attention is being pulled back and forth between Alpha Wayman and Deirdre, who is performing this audit. And Deirdre feels like she's not really paying a whole lot of attention. So Deirdre points to some very odd-looking awards that she has received over the years for her ability to uncover lies. These toys will come up massively later.
It's very obvious what they look like. As soon as you see them, you're like, what? Come on.
They will be inserted into some orifices, and I don't really want to get into it right now. Comments, Chuck.
Chuck, yeah, you take this one, Chuck.
I mean, Lee made his comment, so you might. I mean, come on, man. What are you thinking about these awards that she has on her desk? This movie's amazing.
This movie's ridiculous.
So much happens in this movie. It's just I mean, I mean, in a way, you could say that she's anal retentive. But
Oh my god. I'm not even gonna say what they are. We're just gonna dance around it the whole time.
we don't. I mean,
Alpha
there's
drop on
there's
them.
other versions of these things that get used as the movie goes on.
So
There's
I have to
one
say it's
other
probably one of
version
this.
so here's the thing.
I've been debating on because again, my wife doesn't watch all the movies, and there are certain movies that I will watch that she will just not watch. And I was debating on, do I want to watch this again, and should I ask her to watch it with me? And then I remembered They Live, and I was like, no, it's not going to be, it's not going to go over well.
So that was my thing too. So before I actually watched this movie, I was talking to Chuck, and I'm like, Chuck. So I went onto IMDb and I checked the Parents Guide, and there's a lot of questionable things that I read about in this movie, and some of which included what we're talking about here, and then we'll say something longer and floppier later on in the movie. And he was like, yeah, but it's funny. And I'm like, yeah, but it's there. I'm like, I get that it's funny. That's the whole point of it, right? But
Had you watched it at that point yet?
no.
You hadn't seen it yet.
No,
Yeah, so
that's
that-
why I was,
so the
I'm like-
fact
so
that
that's
it's
why I'm
funny
like,
is what the fact that it's funny.
I know.
Is
I
what.
know. But still, and that's why I was like, I don't think I'm gonna watch this with her because I'm like, we have a date night coming up, and I need
It's
to
not
watch
a
this
date
movie.
night movie.
No,
This
I
is not a
realize
date
that.
movie.
I realize that, but then again, keep in mind, my wife saw Avengers, the first Avengers, 5 times in the movie theater.
That's still different than this movie.
2 of which by herself.
That's still different than this movie.
Very
I
different.
know, but I'm saying there was a
very
time
different
where
from
there was a
this movie.
time where my wife loved watching movies. So I was like, okay. But after reading that, I'm like, well, it looks like I'll be watching this by myself.
There is nothing
So-
quite like this in the Avengers films. I will say there was no.
I will say it was the first where I've seen props like this being used in a non-sexual format. It was used very
Strategically, it was used
Yes,
very strategically.
strategically. They were used for very specific purposes.
As ridiculous as it is, they serve a purpose.
In both
Anyways,
scenarios.
anyways, so Alpha Wayman sees that Evelyn is no longer paying attention, so he pulls her consciousness back so she's paying attention, and we get somewhat of an Expo Dump. Well, not really an Expo Dump. He basically just tells her all kinds of sweet nothings, that all the rejections and disappointments have led you here, all while lightly caressing her face and her chin. And she's very happy with this. Yeah, sure. Alpha Deborah, alternate Deborah or whatever, then punches her way through the door of the closet, grabbing Wayman and snapping his neck, and he falls to the ground dead. She then rips a pipe off the wall and cracks Evelyn across the jaw, and she falls to the ground. And back to the original universe, Evelyn is sucked.
Right, and that's the part where I got confused at first. I was like, they just killed him. And then he shows up again, and I'm like, what? And then I realized the actual him was never there.
No, never there. Never there.
But what he's doing though is the opposite of what she's doing. He's projecting his consciousness as the person into other consciousnesses, if that's even a word, and she's drawing from alternate consciousness into her.
Yeah.
They're both doing the same thing, but in the opposite format, if that makes sense.
The way that I saw this is maybe the universe that he's from, there's just a more advanced way to do this.
No, he's projecting his consciousness.
That's
into
what I mean.
Other...
It's a more advanced way to accomplish this, because we do get I mean later on in the film we do get somewhat of an Expo Dump that this technology has been there with him for a while. Like the alternate version of her in his universe is the one who discovered the technology and the ability to do this. So they've had time to kind of develop everything, like to be a little bit more advanced. So
right, but my question is, why wouldn't he teach her how to do what he's doing?
Well, he has the headgear and she doesn't. He's like in the van, like all Ready
Right.
Player One style, with the headgear
Right.
and everything on, and we don't really see that anywhere else. So it's that's how I'm taking it. That's what makes sense in my mind.
I'll go.
I
with
mean,
it.
if either one of you have a different theory about like,
Well, no. The only other theory is she ends up. You have the daughter.
yeah, who can basically
And then-
do anything. Okay, yeah, we'll get there.
She draws it all at the same time whenever she needs to, and that's what he's trying to teach her to do.
Yeah, well, she's special.
Right.
Sure.
So is mom.
Wayman's able to convince Deb to give them more time to come up with the correct paperwork and file everything the right way, and she agrees. Be back by 6 o'clock tonight, last chance, and then she thanks them both for the cookies that they made for her. While making their way to the elevator, a bit of communication confusion happens here, and Evelyn thinks that the time to fight is right now. Deborah approaches. I'm sorry, but the way that Deborah approaches, she's really mean mugged. Like,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
she looks like she's ready to start some stuff. So, what happens? Evelyn punches her right in the face. I really don't blame her, because she was coming at her looking like she wanted to, hey, let's do this. And I kind of, okay, yeah, sure. Like I was saying, Evelyn punches her in the face, and security quickly arrives. Alternate Wayman takes over to save the day.
Alpha Wayman.
I'm gonna keep on calling him Alternate Wayman.
Alpha Wayman.
Fine. Alpha Wayman takes over to save the day, and he eats some chapstick.
I love it.
He eats some chapstick. The little head device turns green. He pushes the button, and it's go time. And he's able to defeat 4 security guards with a fanny pack.
With the fanny pack,
love it.
including one where he takes the clip of it
Yes.
into the guy's nose.
He knocks them down, disarms them, and then knocks them all down again. He then fills the fanny pack with gravel from a fish tank and sends everybody flying in all kinds of different directions. The last
man.
guy, he fumbles his own nightstick because Wayman is swinging this fanny pack around like nunchucks. The clip of the fanny pack grabs onto this guard's nose, and he just pulls him to the floor and spikes his face into the floor. It's amazing.
And then magically and methodically spins the fanny pack back on his waist and clips it together, and it's perfect again.
God.
It was perfect.
Meanwhile, in the other universe, where the other Evelyn, kind of got killed, Deborah introduces
Deidre.
Deidre introduces Tupaki.
Joba
Tupaki.
Joba Tupaki.
Joba Tupaki. More on her later and who she
Go
actually is.
Chewbacca.
She puts a finger on Evelyn's forehead, and we see a glimpse of several versions of Evelyn. And Joby Chewbacca's character is looking around. She doesn't really know what to do. They might be close. And then she switches through universe like she's changing the channel on an old TV.
I loved that
So do
so
I.
much.
Now, for
It was so
anybody
cool.
younger than the age of 20 who doesn't understand what I'm talking about right now, old school TVs from like the 70s and the 80s,
The UHF.
you
And
used to have to
90s.
get up. You used to have to get up from your couch or your bed and go over to it and turn this big honking knob that was on the television to change the channel. That's
Yep.
what this was like, and it was amazing. I loved it.
It was so cool.
It was so
so great.
And something weird happened, and I don't know why. While she's changing the channel and then she finally hones in on the universe that she wants to be in, the aspect ratio changes from full screen to widescreen.
Yes.
I have no idea why that happened.
It was just a directing or,
Why?
their liberty. I don't know.
Same reason why this movie has 2 endings.
Because it can?
Because it can.
Yep,
Why not?
Because it can. Because they can do everything everywhere all at once.
All at once.
We find out that this Tupaki character is none other than Joy, who was once enjoying a beer, but she gets up and she's off. Back in the IRS building, people are frantically running out and going insane, while the father, Gong Gong,
James Hong.
James Hong, is peacefully just enjoying some pudding. which is ridiculous that he's doing this in the midst of all this chaos.
I do
in the
love
midst of
how
all the
most
craziness,
of
like
this,
he's okay, and he's just sitting there like just shoving pudding in his mouth.
I do love how the majority of the first, I don't know, half of this movie takes place in this IRS building.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From different perspectives.
Well, depending on what perspective you're following, the entire movie takes place in this IRS building.
That's kind of true.
If you're following the perspective of this version of Evelyn is the version of Evelyn's story that we're following, this entire movie takes place here.
That's because the shield scene where she's fighting is inside the building.
It's inside the building. It's all inside the building. They don't leave the building until everything is resolved.
Right.
Did I miss the part where Alpha Wayman is explaining like why things are different? It's like,
we're right here. If you want to add to it,
okay.
My notes here are a little lacking, so if you want to add to it, I would appreciate it.
Okay, go ahead.
We then get some Expo Dump from Alpha Wayman. In his universe, Evelyn was a brilliant woman who not only proved the existence of other universes, but found a way to temporarily link consciousness between universes and accessing their skills, memories, and emotions. It's called verse jumping. And he doesn't explain right then and there why all of this is happening. They have to kind of escape first. They're underneath a desk. He eats. This is disgusting.
I do appreciate that they pieced together the idea of this multiverse throughout the whole movie. They gave you a snippet. You had to figure it out. Things happened. Then they come back to it. It wasn't info dump, expo dump all at one time. It wasn't like you got this 5-10 minute, information of the entire thing, and then the rest of the movie takes place because of that.
Yeah, the exposition.
We're learning it as it's happening.
The exposition dump that we get here is specifically about what verse jumping is. Not exactly how it works, just what it is and who created it. And
we get how it works later.
In the other universe, it was basically Evelyn. She was brilliant, and she discovered all this, and we designed verse jumping, and that's basically all we get here.
Yeah.
So they're underneath a desk hiding when he tells her all this, and then when he's done, he reaches up and grabs an old piece of gum that somebody stuck to the bottom of the desk and starts chewing on it. And then his little green button goes off. He pushes it, and they have to make their escape by blending into a frantic crowd. And he just runs out, going, "Oh my God, what's happening? Oh my God!" And he just starts running. I thought that was hilarious.
Yes. So there was a scene. I think it was the first time we see Alpha Wayman, where he says, "Have you ever noticed that your clothes never wear as well the next day, and your hair never falls in quite the same way?" And I started laughing so hard because he's quoting
the scene that you're talking about is when they're in the hallway just before Joy arrives.
Okay, yes. So that made
me
laugh. Well, I mean, I just think it's hilarious that he's just straight up quoting 9 Days. That song, The Story of a Girl. Absolutely Story of a Girl. You don't know the song?
No.
Okay, I didn't think you did, and that's why I'm laughing so hard, because it was a song that was like big on like MTV VH1 back in like 2001 maybe.
Okay.
It was this is a story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world. He's directly quoting that song, and that's
fantastic.
why I laughed so hard.
That's
and then
hilarious.
later on in the movie, you hear a cover, like an indie cover of that song thrown into it. It's later on in this movie, and again, it was a great little nod to a song that just people were like, "Oh yeah, I think I remember that." I used to play it now and again on for like open mic nights as like a joke.
What it makes me remind me of? What it reminds me of is
Pop-up
have you ever
video?
seen? Have you ever? Oh my gosh!
Pop-up video.
Have you ever seen? Euro Trip?
Oh, of course, I've seen Euro Trip. It's not where I park my car.
You've never seen Euro Trip?
Nope.
Are you serious? Mi scusi. You've never seen Euro Trip?
Listen.
So they go over.
There are a lot of comedies that I actively avoided because there are certain comedies I just look at and say, this is going to be really stupid. I don't have the time.
Okay,
Euro Trip is
everyone
like
thinks
a
it was
rite
like
of passage.
Everyone
like a
thinks
what?
that because
It's like a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage.
I think so.
So
Kind of
road
like,
trip.
wait. He said that to me before about a movie, and Chuck and I touched upon. You said that to me once about waiting. Like waiting is a rite of passage.
Yes, it is.
And I watched it, and I was like, "This
It's
is
such
stupid.
a bad movie.
I'm never taking these recommendations on comedies again." Like,
You don't want to see the brain.
Never mind the butterfly. I
that
created
movie was
butterfly.
so stupid. That movie was so stupid.
The chicken wing.
No, but if you've ever worked at a restaurant, it's spot on.
It's spot on.
At the,
Oh,
end,
yeah.
of,
Spot
at
on.
the end of that movie, I wanted to punch Andy Milonakis in the face
So
and just
what
watch
makes you
him
think
jiggle.
I won't cut you?
so in this
So annoying.
so Eurotrip, like everyone thinks that like Road Trip came out and then Eurotrip came out and it's along the lines of Road Trip and it's nothing like Road Trip.
different, very different movies.
Very different feel. He meets this girl, he falls in love with her, but she lives in Germany, he lives in the States, and you know,
They're pen pals because he was taking German class,
right.
and then he gets confused because his brother's like Mika, or he thinks he thought it was a dude named Mike, and then realized it was Mika, and he's like, oh, I really connected with this person. It must be the love of my life. It was actually a girl, and then he goes on this trip to eventually meet her.
And he brings
Type thing.
his sister and his friend and whatever. And they land in Amsterdam and
No, he brings his friend, and then his other two friends, which are twins, a girl and a boy.
oh, that's right, yes.
Yeah, not his sister. It was Harriet the Spy.
Right. So
Michelle
they
Trachtenberg.
land and
Yeah.
they live in this like off place in Amsterdam, and they meet this guy who's like riding a bicycle or pushing a bicycle, and he's talking about Miami Vice.
Number one new show, Miami Vice.
And it just
Hey, where's the beef?
it just got me thinking that the shows that we experience here in other countries,
They get them syndicated. Yeah,
they get them well after we get them. So when we're seeing stuff like this movie and they're playing this song, is it a newer song for them than it is for us? You know what I mean? Because they're getting it well after. I mean, and that was in a day and age where the internet and everything was still quite big. I mean, it's bigger now, but it was still
yeah.
it was still big.
Right.
But you should put Eurotrip on your list. You'll
Please,
appreciate it.
Please, no.
No,
It's actually quite funny.
no, just because of the people who pop up in it. We'll just say Lana Lang is in it,
Oh,
and it made me hate Lana Lang.
There is
Like,
a
it
nude
not wa-
beach.
it-
There is a nude beach.
Chica.
If you watch it,
know what?
simply for the nude beach scene.
you know what?
You'll appreciate it.
Because I feel like because I kind of feel like our list is been kind of dominated by things that Chuck and I want. We should give Lee a little bit more leeway on what we choose. You can have like a stupid comedy if you want to, man. If you want to throw Eurotrip on there, we'll do it.
No, I'm just saying you need to watch it. We don't need to talk about it.
I mean, Chuck recommended it. You seem like you really like it. If you want to throw it on
No.
we'll
I don't want to.
We'll do it.
not
We'll
need
do
to
it-
talk about
We'll
that
do an
movie.
off the cuff episode with it.
But
'cause
just
it's
I think that
brilliant.
it will greatly improve our communication if you understand what half of our jokes are derived from.
Until then, you'll realize that Scotty doesn't know, and he never will.
I don't want to know.
Doesn't know.
I don't want to know.
And how much of an amazing vocalist that Matt Damon is.
Damon.
It's a fantastic
No,
movie.
don't.
It's
You
horribly
just spoil.
fantastic.
You just gave him a spoiler of a cameo. That's all I'll say.
I don't care. I don't
Hey,
care.
have I ever given you the wrong impression of a movie?
No.
Okay.
Passion in the desert. So
I thoroughly warned him of that
day.
movie before he watched
will.
it.
We will. He will watch it, and we will talk about it. It's going to happen. It's
Okay.
going to happen.
That means that I need to watch it again.
That means I need to watch it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Hey, you know what? You both are getting off light because I'm the one who has to take notes about it. Yeah.
We should have Lee take notes about this since he's the one who's being so hard about it.
Would be fantabulous.
I can just see him now. And he meets a leopard. And then what happens next?
He rolls in the mud.
With the leopard.
He cleans the leopard. The leopard tries to kill him.
Chuck, I think you, me, and your dad should have a movie night and watch that movie together.
No.
Yes.
No, but since we're so far off topic, just to give you guys some credit, I'm actually on season 2 of Seinfeld.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
You've never watched. So have you? This is just your first time through Seinfeld?
Yes.
Really?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I never really appreciated it. I never I've watched episodes for it's a show that it doesn't track along the way.
It's a show about nothing.
It's a show about nothing.
Oh,
Look, I've got the entire box set right here.
Hold on. So are you only in season 2?
Well, there's only 8 episodes in the first season.
So he doesn't even get why it's a show about nothing.
I know. I've got the whole thing right
It's
here.
amazing. It's like the best.
Well, we've had
we've
had small
It
conversation
really is.
around it before.
It really is.
Yeah, but
we've had
it's
small
so
conversation.
good.
Now I'm like, it's on Netflix. I was like, I'll try watching it.
yeah, but a good half of the jokes that me and Lee bat back and forth and how deadpan they are just derivatives from Seinfeld.
Back and to the left. Back and to the left.
That is
That's
one
magic
Louis. Oh my god. Oh my god. This show is amazing. That's like the greatest sitcom of all time. It is.
Well, you were big into Curb Your Enthusiasm as well, weren't you?
Me?
Yeah, you got into that. Yeah, I thought you got into
for
that
a
after.
while.
Yeah,
because Larry David is.
Well, he's basically George. He's George Costanza.
He's George. So
It's funny. The first 2 seasons, Jason Alexander didn't know he was playing Larry David until I forgot which episode it was. I watched an interview a week or so ago, and he was talking about it's here's this ridiculous situation, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, Larry, this doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do it. He's like, of course they would do it. That's what I did. And he's like, oh, and it all made sense. Where that's when Jason Alexander realized, after 2 seasons that he was playing Larry David.
My wife was watching an episode with me, and she's like, what's great about this show is they're having conversation that would really take place in real life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And nobody would think to put that into a TV show. And that's what makes the show so funny. So Julianne and I, so my wife and I, when we first started dating,
My wife.
my wife, we got this box set. I got it the year we started dating. So we watched the whole first half of the series together, and then we kind of peppered them in later on, but then we stopped. We just kind of moved on. So I don't think I've watched. There's probably maybe 7 episodes I haven't seen.
Did
at this
they
point.
change his? They used a different character for his father on the first.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the
They did.
beginning.
They did
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
okay.
They swapped it out
That
because they
is-
realized they wanted to make him a reoccurring character,
That is
so they
one
had somebody
change
new come
they
in.
made for the better.
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
god. Oh my god. The Vietnam.
I just watched
flashback.
the episode. I just watched the episode where Jerry and George dated the same girl,
Oh.
and then she dumps
dated
him
the same
because
girl.
because she went to
Oh.
his show and it was
It
horrible.
wasn't funny. It wasn't funny.
One of the funniest ones, which I don't think you're there yet, where they made fun of Pulp Fiction. Actually, it was the Muffin Stump episode. Chuck, you haven't seen the Muffin Stump yet?
What I don't get
they
is
brought
they're
Newman in to be the wolf. I need a glass of milk. 2 hours.
I love it
That
when
whole episode
I just
is
watch
hilarious.
when his apartment gets robbed because of what's his name? Kramer leaves the door open
Yeah.
because Elaine's staying there and it gets robbed. And he's like, "You don't have insurance?" He's like, "No, I invested in this like D29 thing, and it works great. The one flaw is it only works when the door is closed, and it's the deadbolt for the. What it's great is they get stupid arguments and stupid conversation about I've known it's been a show about nothing all my life, but it's just like as I'm watching it, I'm like, it really
is a show about nothing.
It's a
like
show.
you can literally watch any
Nothing.
episode at any point in time, and you haven't missed anything for the rest of the. You haven't missed anything.
It's a show about nothing.
So, but sorry for the tangent. We can go back to everything.
It's a show about nothing.
It really is.
It really is.
And it's amazingly done. You know, and you get the little jokes in the beginning, whatever. You know, little Les Claypool opening, and then whatever you
You are
get.
disrespecting Les Claypool. Anyways.
See, I used to think that.
That's such a slap in the face. Like he's only good for this. Come on, man. That's so mean.
I used to think.
Do you remember in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where they were he was the guy who did the keys for the TV show, and in the middle of it, he's like, they're doing this real serious scene. It was right after he got dumped, so he just didn't care about his job anymore. So they're like, boot, like, here's some really intense thing, and he's like, boom, ba-dum, boom, 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 on the keys. It didn't fit at all. No, I was gonna get into that. We were talking about music. I know we're going all over the place, but we were talking about like the people who did the music for the show, for the movie here, and it fit well. It was great. There was one thing that really stands out. So in Thor: Love and Thunder,
Oh God.
I know we talked about it. We talked about it briefly, but what they did was they used November Rain, and it fit perfectly. The end part, you know, when we're built up to
You should tell
building.
Will all about it since he's seen it.
I'm just saying they used it very well, as opposed to the opposite, which was the Atom Project. In the Atom Project, they used Foreplay from Boston,
I haven't seen it yet.
and you didn't see the Atom Project? I thought we all watched it.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. They used that song by Boston, and it did not fit. It took me out of the movie because I love the song. It's fantastic. But yet, what is it?
I can't. See, I remember a couple of weeks ago, I looked up the track list for that movie, and I saw November Rain, and I'm like, this doesn't. I can't see it. Like that does not. How?
It works.
Brilliant.
It works.
Brilliantly done. I will be honest.
I hate
when
that
music,
song. I cannot stand that song. But
when music and visuals match up perfectly, I literally tear up. I teared up at that moment.
Bunny eyes.
I was so excited. You can ask Chuck. He was right next to me. I was
Bunny
like,
eyes.
Yeah, bunny eyes. Like I looked like Puss in Boots, you know, in Shrek 2. I was just like, oh, but it was great. It was perfect. I loved it. But the Atom Project, when they used that Foreplay, you know, before you know I'm talking about Foreplay from Boston.
Yeah.
It did not fit with that scene, that fight scene at the end. It was so thrown in there as if somebody just had the radio playing in the background while they shot the movie. It did not fit, and I hate to rip on that song. I love that song. It's a fantastic song, but it was not meant to be in a fight scene in a movie. At least not that fight scene, not the way they did it.
Sweet Dreams.
So I was
X-Men Apocalypse. Huh? Sweet Dreams, X-Men Apocalypse.
You think that was really out of place?
No, I think that was perfect.
Well, that was perfect. Yeah, okay then.
That was perfect.
Yes, that was great. I
think
even like Time in a Bottle.
I think Time in a Bottle was out of place.
I don't think it was out of place
So
Foreplay was.
We talked about it, and I take the scene as a little bit more sad than the two of you did. But after that conversation, I kind of went back and I thought, well, I'm taking it as something sad because of the song. Like the song is trying to invoke this emotional reaction.
Yeah.
But the scene isn't supposed to be emotional. It's supposed to be funny. That's why I'm saying that Time in a Bottle really doesn't fit there.
Yeah.
What scene was that from again?
Time in a Bottle is the Quicksilver scene in Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
If I could put time in a bottle. When he's running around through the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to Everything Everywhere All at Once, if we can. Yeah, remember?
We don't want to talk about Seinfeld anymore.
We just went around the world.
In 80
Anyways,
days.
as we were saying from before, yeah, Lee said it perfectly. Well, that's how we got onto this whole subject, because you were like, he's literally quoting lines in the song, and it's from the scene that we're on right here, when we basically get a little bit of
the Expo Dump.
A little bit of an Expo Dump. You know, Tupaki, she's building something. We don't know what it is, but we basically know it's the reason why things feel off. Your clothes don't fit the same. Your hair doesn't fall down the same way. The taste of coffee is wrong. Nobody trusts their neighbor anymore. And then we see Deirdre, who she staples a piece of paper to her forehead, and this is verse jumping. Basically doing something stupid and then hitting the button that's attached to the thing in your ear. And
so
she
the thing
lets
is,
out this howl. She like
when we
Jamie
saw her
Lee
before,
Curtis lets out this howl, and it's ridiculous. And
when we saw her before in the other universe, she had a circle drawn on her forehead. So when we saw her here, she stapled a paper with that circle on her forehead.
Yes.
So it was symbolic for us to know, oh, it's the same one from that universe.
Yes. So they're jumping all over the place now. And the way that Jamie Lee Curtis was menacing and like taunting here, like I felt like this should have been her in some of those Jason movies.
No, not Jason. Not Jason.
Oh, Michael Myers. Halloween.
Yeah, that was Halloween.
I apologize.
I
apologize. But this is her pulling out her inner Michael Myers. Like she was like, it was the way that the lights are flickering on and off, the way that she's walking around. She looks like she looks like a basket case.
She was great.
She looks like an absolute basket case. It's amazing.
She was so great.
Anyways, so Alpha Wayman has to find a way to compete. So he has to do something stupid and crazy. So he's told by the people who are back in the van giving him orders that he has to give himself paper cuts in between all of his fingers.
All 5.
Oh,
that
was hard to watch.
That was so painful because he kept on missing and trying it again.
And then when he eventually gets
he says it though. He's like, it's so much harder. It's so much harder to try it. Like it only happens by accident when you're trying. You can't do it.
You can't do it on purpose. You have to. Paper cuts.
And when he does do it, the music is like, yeah. You're like,
God.
That reminds me of
it gives me the creeps.
They did that in one of the Jackass movies, I believe, where Steve-O was doing paper cuts in between their fingers and on the sides of their mouths, right on the crease on their mouths.
Oh.
And yeah, I'm like, okay, they had to be on lots of drugs or very drunk in order to do that stuff, because I'm like, nobody in their right mind would just willingly give themselves a paper cut. It's the most right next to a cardboard cut. Cardboard cuts are really bad. If you ever worked in a place like a warehouse when you're dealing with, you know it, you get it. They are worse. So much worse.
So much worse.
Man.
You know what's worse? A splinter in your fingernail. That's worse.
That is not fun. No.
That hurts.
Been there.
That really hurts.
Done that.
That really, really hurts.
Oh.
Anyways,
warehouse stuff.
So,
you know what's even worse?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Taking Employee of the Month awards and, inserting them.
We'll get to the insertion later on. That's
Are we still not there? Oh my.
We're still not there. We'll get there. We'll get there, gentlemen. Don't worry. So, as I was saying, he has to give himself paper cuts so that he can tap into another alternate version of himself and get the ability to actually compete with this woman who is just stalking him now at this point. But he's not able to really do that. So he gave himself all these paper cuts for absolutely no reason, because right before he's about to press the button, Deirdre grabs him, gives him a helicopter spin, a backbreaker, and then drop kicks him into the next room and barricades the door, so he has no other choice but to stay in there. And now Evelyn,
at that point, we realized that she was a professional wrestler.
Yes,
at the first they were like, did like sumo? Maybe she's sumo?
Nope.
No, just straight WWE.
Up, yeah, pretty much. Now Evelyn has no choice. She must verse jump so that she can defend herself and save the world, I guess. And in order to do that, she needs to tap into another universe and the one that's closer to her. And the ridiculous thing that she has to do to accomplish this is to tell Deirdre that she loves her and that it has to be meaningful. Like, it can't just be, I love you, and then no. Because the first attempt, she fails, and she pushes the button anyway, and she ends up into her car next to her husband, and now they're just arguing about their marriage and whatnot. And all this time, Evelyn is being beaten by Deirdre. It's an absolute mess of a thing to describe. I can't do it justice at all. Alpha Wayman decides that perhaps he made a mistake, and this is not the Evelyn that he seeks. So he leaves. Eventually Evelyn gets it, telling Deirdre that she loves her, and boom, she pushes the button, and all of a sudden she becomes Neo.
Well, she told her multiple times, and it didn't happen. She didn't mean it until the knee was literally like touching her face. Yep. And then it kicks in. That was what made this whole thing. She was jumping down a stairway with her knee ready to smash through her skull. It was and then at the last second, she says it in a way that's exactly what she needed to do. It was weird.
I love you.
And
she's Neo.
It just switched. That was pretty awesome.
Yes.
It was so well done.
And she's able to handle Deirdre with absolute ease.
Which basically she just moved out of the way.
She moved out of the way and then basically turns into Neo at the end of the first Matrix movie, like all surprised about what she's doing. She can't get a grasp on this, but okay. She saw her life without her husband, and it was beautiful. These are the words that come out of her mouth.
Yep.
Almost immediately, the person that she grabbed this ability from was a woman in another universe, another Evelyn in another universe, who basically becomes a famous actress because she's just a really good martial artist. So basically Jet Li. Over there.
Basically her because of Crouching Tiger. So it was just...
Okay. Almost immediately.
I mean, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was a huge movie. I actually never saw it.
Neither did I.
But I remember that was like a really big deal. Chuck definitely saw it because he's a huge martial arts fan. Oh, well, no, you never saw it?
Nope.
Dude, you're all about that. Wow.
So immediately
it
was one of the first where it was like everything was like running across treetops. I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, it looked pretty stupid, but people raved about it, and then they made fun of it in Scary Movie and all that stuff, and yeah.
She immediately wants to stay in the other universe where she's a famous actress, and she also wants her husband to know how beautiful her life could have been without him. Alpha Wayman warns against this kind of behavior, says this is basically what created Tsubaki. Okay, that's great. She experiences every world and every probability at the same time. She's lost her sense of reality and any sense of objective truth.
Yeah.
Sure. Meanwhile, back in her life as a superstar, she sees that version of Wayman off in the distance, and the two come together and talk for a moment. And needless to say, there's still somewhat of an attraction there, so we're beginning to see what this movie is really about. Evelyn's attention is pulled back, and the cops are there arresting everybody. No. You're gonna break your camera doing that. Arrest... You want to take a break?
Arrest? What? No.
All right. I'm going to turn your camera off then. Okay. What was I saying? Meanwhile, superstar off in the distance. This is an attraction. Evelyn is pulled back to the real world, and there are cops there just arresting everybody. And that's when Jabba Tupaki arrives with her pet pig, and she absolutely
you've changed the name too, which is hilarious because just like Evelyn, you keep changing this character's name.
I keep saying Tupaki.
No, you've been saying Tupaki, Tubaki, Tubaki, and you just said Jabba.
I didn't say Jabba.
You said Jabba Tubaki.
Joba. Whatever the name is. I'm just gonna say Joy from now on because it's Joy.
Jojo Chewbacca.
So anyways, Joy arrives with her pet pig and everybody gets wrecked. The first officer that gets in her way, she basically turns into confetti. The second officer that gets in her way gets gunned down while he's trying to do a mariachi dance. And the third officer gets his skull driven into the floor, snapping his neck in basically two. Am I wrong here?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Nope, yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Is this the
Yes,
scene?
it
hallway.
is. Yes, it is.
Yep. Yes, it is.
Tsubaki, well, Joy then gets shot and she's acting like she's hurt. She's bending over. Oh my God, don't worry. It's organic. And what's supposed to be blood turns into organic ketchup. Finally, another officer tries to knock her out with his nightstick, but yeah. She turns it into a toy.
A giant
Sex
fluffy
toy.
Phallic
It is
toy.
flopping around. It's really, really long. This thing is massive.
like 3 feet.
This thing is like 3 feet long. And she beats this
2
cop
feet, 2 feet.
bloody with it.
Then she gets 2 of them.
Then she has 2 of them, and she continues to beat this cop bloody, and then does a pose with both of them in her hands, and they are both a bloody mess. The visual of her holding these 2 feet, 3 feet long toys that are bloody is disgusting.
It's
Hilarious.
It's horrible.
It's ridiculous.
It's so stupid, but it works. It works.
See, the thing is if it was in any other movie aside for this one, it wouldn't have worked.
It would have been gratuitous if it was in any other movie.
Right. But with everything that happens in this movie, it is. If you
fits.
took each individual thing, each thing would have been off-putting and ridiculous. But they put it all into one movie, and you're like, "Oh, that just happened." And then you see it again, you're like, "Oh, that happened too." And then it all happens, and you're like, "Oh, it just makes the movie that much better."
It makes the movie hilarious.
Yep.
So, Joy then starts to try to intimidate Evelyn. Now, Evelyn, she tries to make a jump so she can, get some powers going of her own and defend herself or fight or whatever she wants to do. But all she does is end up peeing herself. When she does eventually jump, she jumps into a universe where people have hot dogs for fingers.
Dog fingers.
Not just hot dogs, but inside of each hot dog.
Inside of each hot dog is mustard and ketchup. We'll get to that later. Then this movie commits its greatest... let me finish this one part and then I'm going to let you go. This movie commits its biggest crime, in my opinion, making fun of 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey.
Because we get the chimps that are at the beginning of Space Odyssey, only the chimp with the hot dog fingers kills the regular chimp with the regular hand. And we get the music from 2001 and everything. And the apes are going legit ape. Just in celebration that they've won. Just like in 2001, only with hot dog fingers. This was, I hated that. I hated that they had to invoke 2001.
Of course they had to. I didn't hate it at all. It made perfect sense for what they were doing.
No.
I think
for what they were doing, it had to.
The whole time when you're coming back to the real universe and you see her sitting there trying to,
fight with her regular hands, but she thinks her hands are hot dogs. They're just limp.
Yeah, but
right.
she looked
Hilarious.
like a T-Rex the way she was doing it, though. She didn't look like she had hot dog fingers. She just looked like a Tyrannosaurus
Well,
Rex.
she didn't have hot dog fingers. She just thought that she did for whatever reason. But whatever.
Right.
So anyways, after they get done doing that, we then go to Evelyn, who has her hot dog fingers, and she's watching the same musical that she was watching before in her laundromat, only the people have hot dog fingers, and then they just start eating each other's fingers, and there's mustard and ketchup all over the place.
Gushing
It's
out
so
of them.
disgusting. It's so disgusting.
I wanted to vomit.
This
I wanted
grossed
to
me
outright
out
vomit.
more than the other 2 scenes that we've talked about. This
was the
movie,
This
most
was bad.
disgusting thing.
This
it was so.
and they're just, and the two people who are doing this musical, they've got the fingers in their mouth. They're all about it.
It's
They are
disgusting.
slurping up all of this mustard and ketchup. They are going to town. So my question is, they're doing this. Does it heal? Like like when they're biting the hot dog hands, like when they're done biting and they go away, does it heal and then the mustard and ketchup just come back, or do they have to like go somewhere and like get like more mustard and ketchup injected into their
You know what?
hot dog?
You know what bothers me even more is you've actually thought about that question. I watched the scene and I went, "That's awful," and I never let it go back.
And Will's going, so how does this work, actually?
Yes.
So
How does this
let's
work?
get into
I
the
wanna know
actual
how this
physics
works.
here. I want to understand the biology of these hot dog fingers.
I mean,
and
think
how does this get
because
filled?
if you bite your fingers right now,
is,
to the
is the
point where
ketchup
they,
the blood?
No, it's
or,
not blood.
or
It's ketchup.
Is
all
the mustard the pus?
No, it's actual
Yes.
mustard and ketchup.
No, it's actual mustard. I never thought that it was blood or pus. It's actual
but
mustard
what-
and ketchup.
But what determines between which is mustard and which is ketchup?
Color.
the color. One's yellow and one's
yeah,
red.
but
One's
what's
yellow
it
and
coming
one's
out of?
red.
But what's it coming? Is every finger different? One finger is ketchup,
You
and the other
don't-
finger
you
is
don't
mustard.
know until you bite into
one,
it.
And then
one
the
was
third one
actually
is
on
relish?
One, you know what? In all honesty, you might have a point here, because on one of the fingers, I noticed that the ketchup that was coming out was a little pinker. So I was thinking, is there mayo mixed into this one?
I don't want to.
Yeah, but it's a nice surprise because you don't know until you bite it.
That's interesting. So one could be ketchup, one could be mustard, one could be knish, one could be mayo.
One could be
Knish.
sauerkraut.
Sure.
You never know until you take a chunk.
I mean, sauerkraut's
just-
disgusting, but
It's disgusting, yes, but the fact that we're actually having this conversation right now. This wasn't the scene I thought we
So-
would be stuck on for a while.
So Lee will be the first one to tell you, when it comes to me and the types of conversations that I'm willing to have, nothing is off the table. I'll go anywhere. I don't care. Nothing is off the table. So obviously when I saw this, was I grossed out? Yeah, a little bit. But you're right. I want to know how this works. I want to know if these fingers heal or not, and if the body just naturally replenishes the condiments.
the condiments.
So my family went on a vacation this past week, and I can't tell you how many hot dogs we cooked, and I could not cook these hot dogs without being like, So thankfully
that's
we
the
also
one thing you
had.
didn't see though, because all you saw was like finger and condiment. You never saw like the dog.
The finger was the dog.
Yeah,
I thought the finger was like more like the bun.
No, the
finger was
finger's the hot dog.
The
Each
finger's the
finger
hot
was a
dog?
each
Yeah,
finger
yes,
was
they
a
were just
long-
hot dog
I
fingers.
get it, but it didn't. I don't know. The color was off. I don't know.
That's because it was flesh
were-
color versus a
Because they
hot
were
dog.
flesh colored, they were hot dog fingers. That was the
Flesh-colored
whole
hot
point.
dogs. Okay, fine. I
'Cause they
take back
flopped
that
like
last
hot
statement that I
dogs.
made. But
They were just these big, long
Whoa.
hot dogs.
They were foot long hot dogs.
There were no
What is
buns
happening?
involved. It was just big, giant hot dog fingers. That's why I sent you guys that picture. Oh, I think we lost Will.
I think we lost Will. He's just frozen like.
That's the greatest picture ever. I'm taking a photo.
So am I.
All right. So yes, nasty little hot dog fingers. And oh, I don't know what else to say about that, except I really hope we can move on and not talk about this anymore. I don't want to think about these disgusting little hot dog fingers. So, anyway, wow, this is the worst time to stop.
Right in the middle of hot dog fingers.
Right in the middle of hot dog fingers. But she can't do anything because all she's got is hot dog fingers. Can you stop?
Like I'm so.
he's so excited.
You just can't hide it.
Yeah. I know he wants to. So, hey, welcome back.
Hang on.
We sent you a picture of your amazing smile.
What did you? Hang on.
Oh, did you send one too?
Oh wow. Oh my god.
That's what you were frozen on. And we're just like, okay.
Yeah, I've had internet problems on and off all day.
Yeah. I hardwired today.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I missed a lot of what you guys said.
We just said hot dog fingers, and let's move on, please.
You want to move on from the hot dog fingers?
Please.
Okay.
I kind of want a hot dog now.
Anyways, we get some Expo Dump from Joy, who is Tabaki, who basically can be everywhere and do anything that she wants to. And she got bored one day and just decided to put everything on a bagel. All her hopes and dreams, every breed of dog, every personal ad on Craigslist. And the thing is, when you put everything on a bagel, nothing really matters anymore. Everything gets sucked in, all the pain and disappointment. Nothing really matters with your life. The one thing that I think is funny about this, I want to read some of these Craigslist ads. Did you guys pause on this at all? To like stop and read it?
No.
Seeking vengeful woman, hoping to find a spiteful woman to spend a miserable year with who will crash my car, leave me with a lawyer, mortgage, and emotional scarring. Yum, B.O. Walmart, money. Caught you trying on deodorant in aisle 9. Could smell you after you ran away. Nothing to be embarrassed of. I love that stank, baby. Hit my line. I take lunch breaks at the Panera table by the door. Wear your best. Cash to tickle. Woman for man. Magnificent mile. Looking to give some extra cash to a man with cute feet to tickle. Send pictures of your feet and must shower before we meet up. Prefer higher pitched laugh and facial hair.
Oh, or should I say?
So as all this is going on, and Evelyn is being shown everything, her father, Gong, comes roaring in on his wheelchair, knocking Joy through a wall.
And he flies through like he's like a jetpack.
He's got a whole jet system going on in this wheelchair. All of a sudden, he's a transformer. Oh my god. So, what's actually going on? Well, later we learn that Evelyn was chosen because, as Chuck asked earlier, she has so many life goals she never accomplished. She's capable of anything because she's so bad at everything.
Yep.
Sure.
Joy, who's back to normal and has absolutely no idea what's going on, enters the room, and Evelyn ties her up, and she's trying to explain that they're both being puppets like in the movie Raccacoonie.
Have you ever seen Ratatouille?
No.
Well,
you've never seen Ratatouille? Then you
No.
don't understand half of this. I mean, well, 80% of this entire part.
I probably
So,
don't.
I mean, it's pretty spot on.
I understand
you know,
the concept. It's a
she
rat that teaches a
explains
guy
it.
how to cook.
it doesn't teach
Well,
him.
it's a
controls
rat
him.
that controls him by pulling on certain parts of his hair that it's like a trigger point that controls his arms. It's actually a really great movie for an animated film.
Okay.
But the fact that there's this 60-year-old woman who's calling something Raccacoonie, it reminds me of every 60-year-old woman today who just doesn't understand and is just messing stuff up. But then again, I laugh even harder because it's an Asian woman who clearly had a bootleg copy of an Asylum film version of Ratatouille, which is called Raccacoonie, and that's what she knew. That's what makes it even funnier,
She
because
thought
like
was a
apparently it
raccoon. was
existed.
hilarious.
Yeah. So the whole thing was there was this real Raccacoonie that she eventually bumps and we eventually
get Raccacoonie.
we eventually get Raccacoonie. And when that happened, that's when I couldn't stop laughing, because I couldn't believe they actually were like, oh, it's a real thing. It's Raccacoonie. Here he is.
So we find out that Evelyn's father isn't Evelyn's father from this universe. He's just some head honcho from another universe who's basically calling all the shots and trying to contain everything that's going on here. And he insists that Evelyn kill Joy, which ain't gonna happen because that's her daughter, for heaven's sakes.
Well, yeah, isn't he actually her father in the other universe as well?
I guess it's never,
but it's just.
I guess so. Sure.
Right. It was never. It was never specifically said that Joy was actually her daughter.
Well, there is that line
universe.
at the end of the movie. I can't lose another loved one or something like that. So you might have a point.
Right. They kind of put it where it was like, well, if you're, So here we get this weird thing where, let's say Doctor Strange. We go Multiverse of Madness. Every single universe you go to, there's a Benedict Cumberbatch Doctor Strange. Sure. Yet there are 3 different actors playing Spider-Man or playing Peter Parker in No Way Home. So there's that. So we're seeing a lot of different, what it looks like in an alternate universe. In The Flash, for example, there was another Barry Allen that looked totally different and was played by a different actor, but there was also another Barry Allen who was just not the Flash. He was just a smart dude, So when you're going different universes, sometimes there's a relation, where people are actually the same actor, same person in a sense, but they just live a different life. And then sometimes it's actually just a totally different person that happens to be in that position with that same name, or the same powers or whatever. So I like that we have now with the DC universe, the Marvel universe, and then whatever you want to call this, the A24 universe. We have
the
these
A24 universe.
Yes,
because all of the movies that I mentioned earlier in the podcast, they're all connected. They're all the same.
They might. Hey, maybe they are.
No.
We didn't realize.
This movie does
we
not
didn't
take
realize.
place in the same universe as Uncut Gems.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Because that's a different universe where Adam Sandler's a really great dramatic actor. I'm just saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe it's all connected.
Sure. Anyways, so now we get the thing. She wants to save her daughter. It's pretty clear now that that's what she's trying to do. We then get Evelyn, who does a couple of more jumps to hopefully become a bit more like her daughter so that she can compete. She starts dancing awkwardly, then she puts some hand sanitizer in her ears and she starts whistling, and there's dialogue going on down below in caption form, and she's just going on about how she's going to save her daughter. This is more disgusting to me than the hot dog hands. She wipes some snot off of Gong Gong's nose and then puts that same finger inside of his mouth. And
that is the main reason I didn't ask my wife to watch this movie after.
That is so gross. That is so gross. That is so disgusting.
It was hilarious.
We then see a version of Evelyn who's a cleaning lady in the same room, just in a different universe, and she discovers a secret room where there is a man being let out by his dominatrix. So in the other universe, Evelyn, Joy, and her husband hide in said room. Gong Gong calls for a whole bunch of backup, and we see a whole bunch of people doing all kinds of ridiculous things to make jumps themselves, so everybody's going to come in and fight Evelyn to prevent her from saving her daughter. Evelyn finds a version of her who's a blind singer, so now she's Neo, only blind. And she's going through all of these people who are coming after her like it's nothing. She's fighting all over the place. She's kicking people. She's doing all types of martial arts and acrobatics all over the place. It's an amazing scene. She loses it for a minute. She eats a toy frog, and then all of a sudden, she's a sign spinner. This skill gives her the ability to grab a shield, and she continues to wreck house. She throws this shield, this giant body shield, around this room like it's a boomerang and knocks out like easy 7 of them like it's nothing. Just bong, bong, bong on each one of their heads. It's fabulous. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
She later she leaves this room and then she goes out into another part of the IRS building, and she comes across a woman who is with her dog, and she uses her dog on a leash as a weapon, and then she just starts throwing this dog all over the place trying to hit Evelyn, and it ain't happening at all. Evelyn then downs a 2-liter bottle of orange soda, and now she can cook. She's a great chef now.
She's a hibachi chef.
Sure, she's a hibachi chef, and so she's really, really good with cooking utensils. So the cooking utensils, the fact that she's a martial artist now, and she's just a blind singer, everything's kind of coming together, and she's becoming really, really powerful. Okay.
Very much, again, Jet Li, the one.
Very
like
the
all
one.
these
Very,
things are building up and giving
the
her all
one.
these skills,
making her incredibly powerful.
Right.
She defeats a lady with the dog and sends her off packing, and then a man with some lead pipes wants to fight. The encounter is going pretty well. They're fighting back and forth. She's using all of the skills that she's incorporated over the course of this movie. But they whack each other with these lead pipes, and both their devices stop working for a moment, so they just kind of start lightly slapping each other. They're like play fighting. It's ridiculous. Okay. So remember those toys that were on Deirdre's desk?
The trophies.
The trophies.
Oh, yes.
The trophies that were oddly shaped.
Yeah, this is where we are.
This guy starts to one guy. Start with the one guy. He drops trow and starts to try to sit on one of them.
I thought he was sitting on something different before that one.
He was. But Evelyn and this first guy, they're fighting over this toy. Evelyn is trying to prevent him from sitting on this toy, and that's what this fight is about.
I thought he was trying to sit on something different first.
No. He's trying to sit on the toy. And the fight's going pretty good until all of a sudden this guy jumps out of nowhere with no pants on. His bottom parts are pixelated, and he lands on this toy. The dust cloud comes up, and he turns to the camera with a menacing look, pushes the button, and he's Jackie Chan. This is... and he stands up. No, stick with me, guys. He stands up, does the whole, kung fu getting ready pose, ready to fight. And with every movement, you see this thing dangling and moving all around.
This is so bad.
So
I have a quick question.
And hang on. Let me finish this. So he's ready to fight. And Evelyn and this guy with this toy hanging out of his backside, bottom part still pixelated, mind you, still pixelated. So take all of the sexuality out of it. Get your mind out of the gullers out there, people. All the while this thing is hanging, jiggling all over the place while he and Evelyn are fighting. Then they get into pose again, they get into position again, and they're ready to go for round 2 when all of a sudden the first guy that was trying to stick that thing, sit on it, comes out of nowhere with a different trophy hanging out of him. For whatever reason though, like his pants aren't off. His pants are on, just ripped in the right place. And this thing is just hanging, like sticking out, like full on sticking out. So now
also pixelated.
So no, it's not pixelated. It's because his pants are on. The first guy's pixelated. This guy, no pixelation because his pants are still on. You don't need that here. So now it's a three-way. Now it's a three-way, and the three of them
Five-way.
Sure. And now the three of them are all fighting. The fight comes to an end when one is flying up top, the other one is scaling the floor on the bottom, and Evelyn reaches and simultaneously removes these things from where they are stuck, and they both just go flying into the wall, and they're done.
I've got nothing to say.
Thoughts on this fight, gentlemen?
I just have one question. Just one.
I have a ton of questions, but
about the movie, so do I.
I'll listen to yours.
I just have one question. Well, it's two questions in one. First question: how long did it take you to type all that out, to write it down? And two, how did you force yourself to steadily read all of that without breaking down in laughter the entire time?
I did say that this movie was a chore to take notes for. I opened with that. This is one of the reasons why, because of how ridiculous. It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong.
You're sitting
This
there
is
typing this out going, I
hilarious.
thought I would never type this out.
I tried to be as clean as possible.
It's hard.
Keep in
It's
mind
difficult.
that while this fight is going, it's very Matrix, it's very Kill Bill. Like, that's what this scene is kind of ripping on. Only just imagine things inserted into body parts the entire time.
The entirety of the time, like the whole time.
We then cut to the other universes, Evelyn, the one who's a famous actress, the famous martial artist, and they're watching what is taking place with this fight scene on a big movie screen, and the entire theater erupts in laughter when the Evelyn on screen looks at what she has in her hand and is disgusted and just drops them both on the ground.
Yep.
All this happened.
It happened in
All
a movie,
of this happened.
and we watched it. And if
Lee,
it wasn't
questions?
and if it wasn't
No
in this
questions.
movie,
No
it would be-
questions.
This is one of those things where if it wasn't in this movie, we would be going, "What the heck did we just watch?"
Oh, did you watch Too Many Cooks yet?
No.
Too Many Cooks.
Anyways,
Is this the end part?
so, anyways. Okay, so, out of nowhere, her father, Gongon, comes along and pins her to a wall. She has to get out of this. Luckily, a fly lands. She snorts it. The button turns green. She pushes it, and we then get Pinky Power. She's training Kill Bill
She's
style,
got
and her
pinky
pinkies turn
power.
into muscles, and she's able to break
Big
free.
giant biceps.
Giant biceps on her pinkies.
I could
Anyways,
never have taken notes for this movie.
so more baddies are on the way. There's an untold amount of them, and each one of these baddies gets defeated with her pinkies. She knocks one of them in the chin. She just flicks him in the chin. He goes flying 10 feet into the air, comes crashing down. She puts the pinky on his chest and drives him into the earth.
It's so bad.
We think we're getting the final battle. Because all of a sudden Joy arrives. And we think this is going to be it, right? We think this is going to be it, but it's not. Evelyn throws up all over the place and passes out. The end. We're done, guys.
The end. We're all done.
That's it.
The end.
All right, have a good one, everybody.
What I don't get, my one question about this movie so far is, does it matter what you do that is stupid that brings you to a different universe, or did you do a specific thing for a specific universe?
The movie starts with you have to do a specific thing to go to a specific universe, but Evelyn's just winging it. She's just doing anything that's crazy, and whatever she gets, she gets.
Right.
There was nobody that told her to snort a fly. There was nobody that told her to wipe snot inside of her father's mouth. Like, none of this was told to her. She just does it.
That's what makes her the one.
You're right. You're absolutely right. She's willing to go there.
Daughter is kind of the one.
Yes.
Yeah, but
we don't see her daughter
doing.
doing any of this. Like, we don't see her daughter obtaining any of these abilities.
Because-
Like, her
because-
daughter's already there.
She's already there.
She's
That's why
already
her,
there.
Her husband, Alpha Wayman, whatever, tells her that she already did that, and she's already brought everything into her at once. So, I mean, overall, I loved the movie. It's a fantastic movie.
Awesome movie.
Mhm.
Awesome movie. But a twist,
But
because there's more.
Oh, it's not over.
Oh, no, it's not
what's
over.
the twist?
Oh, it's not over.
I was psyched out when I first watched it. I thought
So
that
was
it.
I.
I thought
So
that was
was-
the end.
Really?
Yeah, I
I
thought
thought it was
end.
the end, too.
I didn't pay.
I think you ruined it for
any
me.
attention to the runtime. And you know what? You know what sells it for me? There's so much that happens in this first part of the movie. It feels a lot longer than it actually is.
It does. The next part of the movie, though, is more.
This movie is only about 2 hours and 15 minutes, give or take. And the first part of this movie, everything we just described, it felt like the whole thing. It felt like 2.5 hours. It felt really, really long. So when it ended here, I was like, whoa, that's it. It ends with Evelyn, throwing up and passing out right here. Oh, that's a really odd. I thought that there was going to be a sequel or a part 2 or a continuation of the story.
Well, I thought there was a part 2 because it did say part 1.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I was
but
like,
I didn't think
okay.
I didn't think it was going to be part 2 right away. I thought it might have been.
Neither did I. I did not see this coming, and I was pleasantly surprised. We then see Evelyn, who's having a really hard time staying in one universe at one time. She's jumping all over the place and really having her mental faculties are not all there. She's being sucked and pulled all over the place. It's ridiculous. The chef with the raccoon on his head that we were talking about earlier, that raccoon tries to kill her. That was that was fun to do. The guy didn't want any part of this. He's like, no, please, no. But the raccoon is like, no, she's seen too much. We see Deirdre with her hot dog hands, and she's approaching Evelyn. She wants some sexy time, but that ain't really going down. She pretty much leaves her high and dry, and Deirdre in that universe starts to cry into her hot dog hands. They actually throw in a splat sound effect when she puts her hand to her face. It sounded ridiculous. Anyway, she finally lands back where she belongs, at her table, doing her taxes. And we just get the subtitle everywhere, or part 2 everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna wait for him to get back.
You could.
What is happening?
Hello?
Hi, welcome back.
Is he frozen again?
No. Oh, I guess he is.
Hello there.
Sorry about that. Anyways. So, we're approaching what is the final act of the film. And in this act, Evelyn is shown the true meaning of the bagel. Joy didn't create this bagel to destroy everything. She just created it to destroy herself. Right? For some reason, is this a part where they turn into rocks?
The first time?
Yeah.
Maybe.
They turn into rocks and they end up on some weird planet that really wasn't fit for life. And as rocks, they begin a dialogue with each other. She's tired of being everywhere and knowing everything, and she was hoping that Evelyn would be able to see something different. And she's going to walk into the bagel and see if she can actually die. And she's just happy that she won't be doing it alone. I feel like I'm missing stuff. No?
Maybe?
They do go through, kind of like in Multiverse of Madness, they do go through a series of different
You're right.
universes together, but they do it better. They see, like a drawing of like an animated part where they're drawn. They're this universe where they're rocks together. They're in multiple different universes, and they end up in this mountain range as two just random rocks that happen to be side by side. And they have some of the most in-depth conversation through the entirety of the film, even more so than other films too. But it's actually what brings the connection between the two of them, and Evelyn now knows, this brings them closer in this part than the entirety of the whole film.
So as rocks, the two of them have this really beautiful conversation, and Evelyn basically apologizes for ruining everything. And Joy, in some ways, kind of says, you know what, it's not your fault. We're people. We're stupid. It's kind of our whole deal. And the two of them laugh about it, and they laugh it off. But I'm not doing it justice at all, because I just, when I watched this, I was just enthralled. And every time I watch that scene, it really hits me. I think it's fantastic. And you're just, the fact that it's silent, there's no music, they're just rocks, there's like a desert landscape, maybe there's some wind and everything going on in the background, and you're just reading what these two people are talking about. And in a lot of ways, they're just trying to damage, like, what is their fractured relationship. It's fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous.
It's good.
As they're approaching the bagel, well, they're back in regular, like, livable people. They're approaching this bagel, and they're going to walk into it, and Joy is just happy that she's not going to be doing this alone.
Where is this bagel? Anyways, I never really understood that. It's in this, like, hall of some sort.
Built, I'm assuming that Joy built, like, this pocket universe where this bagel exists.
Yep.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay.
You got something different?
No, I have no idea.
So as they're approaching this bagel, Evelyn's attention gets pulled back towards a laundromat. The IRS lady is there, and she's ready to seize it. Obviously, she missed her 6 o'clock appointment. Evelyn really doesn't care about all that, though, because she's being seduced by the power of the bagel. At the spot where she passed out, she wakes up, and she gets these flashes of all different versions of herself. They fly across the screen in rapid succession, so literally, she's becoming more and more like Joy, being everywhere, all at once. It's exactly what the title of the movie says, and it's amazing. Funny note, while I was doing my research, well, I wasn't really doing research, but when I was looking up different parts for this movie, in this sequence, somewhere along the line, the production team is like spliced in here while they're on like a Zoom meeting. I couldn't find it in the actual film, but if you Google it, you'll be able to find it really easily. It's actually like the fact that they just threw something like that in there, I think is really cool. I think it's actually
that is pretty cool.
I think that's pretty cool. Anyways, for some reason, and I can't figure this part out, for some reason, she stabs her husband, like just out of nowhere. I don't understand why she did it. She just stabs him with this random piece of glass that she has in her hand.
Yeah,
and he's
no
bleeding, and it's really sad. But even though that happened, he gives this really heartfelt speech about how important it is to be kind, and he's full of all kinds of optimism, and he just wants everybody to stop fighting. He's sick of all the fighting, and he just wants everybody to stop and be nice to each other. In an alternate universe where Evelyn is famous, her and Wayman, they have a talk about things, about how they didn't work out before. Evelyn clearly wants to try things again, but Wayman's not really on board with this whole thing. Don't give him false hope. We tried this before. It really didn't work. You made the right decisions. I know you see me as weak, but what I'm really good at is seeing the good in everything. And that's basically where that conversation ends until she runs up to him, you know, in classic movie style. Oh, please give us a chance and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Evelyn now sees her husband in somewhat of a new light after hearing all of this. And she decides against going into the bagel and decides to fight for her daughter and her husband and her family. And in the final fight of this movie, she uses a lot of kindness instead of violence against everybody that we've met in the movie so far. And she ascends a staircase in an attempt to stop her daughter from entering this bagel. I loved this. There's a guy who was in the beginning of the movie who was just enamored by Evelyn and the perfume that she was wearing because his dead wife used to wear that, so she sprays him with the same cologne. The dominatrix dude from earlier, she puts a ball in his mouth and spanks him. Like, it just gives everybody what they want. She brings two people together for a kiss, and you hear, like, you hear wedding music going on in the background. Like, she's basically just giving everybody what they want. There's this one guy who's just really angry, and she like finds out that he's just mad because he's in so much pain because his back is out of whack. So she just gives him a couple of whacks and chops and gives him a realignment and cracks his neck, and he's all of a sudden happy all over again. Before all this happened, the most on-the-nose nod to the Matrix, where they just open fire on her with all of their guns, and she just stops all of the bullets dead.
Yep.
But she turns them all into the googly eyes and sends them all back flying towards them. So now they're just
all get
googly eyes all
googly
over
eyes.
the place. This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. So, Evelyn and Joy, they're at the top of the stairs, they're fighting, and they fight throughout almost all of the universes that we've seen. There's even one that I skipped where they're both piñatas and they just kind of bang into each other.
Yep.
I thought that was fabulous. I thought it was awesome. Yep. But in the end, Joy just wants everything to stop.
Yep.
Now, they don't exactly reconcile the differences, but they do have a talk. Joy's whole problem right now is just whenever she's around her mother, she just seems to make things work, and they just seem to make each other unhappy and mad, and she just wants them both to go her separate ways. Evelyn's not really having this, though. She basically says, listen, you're my daughter. I'm upset with you about these things. I'm disappointed about these things. And despite all that, I would still rather be here with you, even though I can go anywhere and do whatever I want.
Right.
And it's a happy ending. The two of them come back together. They hug. They rejoice. Problem averted. She no longer wants to go into the bagel. Evelyn learns a valuable lesson about family and about how you can't really ignore everybody and for the sake of whatever businesses or whatever other things you got going on. Family basically has to come first is the overall message of this film. I don't know why we needed toys to tell that story, but that's not really the point. Okay. And the movie ends with Deirdre at the IRS office. She's very happy with the new line of paperwork that's going on. And Evelyn is doing this really awesome thing where at the beginning of the movie, she was paying more attention to her taxes than her family, and she was kind of avoiding that. And now we're in this position where she's at the tax office not paying attention to what the IRS lady is saying at all, and instead paying a lot of attention to her family, all with a smile on her face.
Right.
And that's how the movie ends.
Yep. So.
Loved every bit of it.
As did I.
Yeah, the ending was
Rushed.
I wouldn't say cliche, huh?
Rushed.
Yeah,
Things moved very fast.
Yeah, it seemed like done. It's like, so our pastor, a joke that he's been doing for the past few months is like the end. Like at the end of it, it's like done. The end. Oh, that's it, huh? Oh, okay. That's what this kind of seemed like, like we're just going to give you this ending now. Now, do we believe that there might have been another ending, thought of, and then they just gave us this? Or do we feel like they just didn't know how to end it and they're like, well, here you go.
What other
it was
ending
entertaining,
would they do?
wasn't it?
She disappears into the
I don't
bagel
know.
and dies? Like, is that?
I don't know. I don't know. That's why, so when you're saying it feels rushed, it's like, well then, what would they have done that would have not felt rushed?
I don't know. I'm saying that
sequel?
it feels rushed because the way that everything wrapped up, like we go through a whole bunch of different universes with Evelyn, like figuring herself out and helping other people and putting other people before that she put, whatever drama was going on in her own head. It just felt like there was nothing to connect her resolution.
Right. And this is the problem with indie films. Most indie films have endings like this where you're like, oh, well, it's over. I mean, it makes sense, but I don't feel like there was enough time to give closure.
Right.
Like like it's closed, it's done, and I accept it. But you're like, but something was missing because we're used to watching a lot of mainstream stuff that's done in Hollywood, big.
So when
big
she
budget.
vomits and passes out, it feels like there should be more after that.
Yeah, probably.
Like, that doesn't feel very resolved. Like, she wakes up and then stabs her husband, and then she does everything with her daughter in front of the bagel, and then all of a sudden, oh, never mind. I've changed my mind about going into this bagel of death with you.
Yeah.
I'm
The
going to
hard
save
thing
you.
is, is we're so used to movies that when it ends poorly, we know what exactly it's missing.
Right.
In this, you can't pinpoint what's missing. You just feel like something is. So,
Right.
does that attribute to the fact of everything is there and it was just done quickly and they could have extended it? Or is there truly something missing out of the whole thing?
Yeah. And that's the problem with a lot of indie films. Like I love some indie films. When I rewatch them later on, I go, oh, I remember this being better, but now I'm seeing that there really is like a missing piece or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't pinpoint what is missing here, if there is something missing, or if it's like a pacing thing, or if it's there, it's just put in a different spot and just didn't like come full circle the way that it would normally come full circle. I don't know.
I don't know if it's so I don't know if it's a pacing thing. I think it might be like a character thing. Like her whole resolution comes from her seeing her husband in a different light when he does the whole thing in the universe where she's a martial artist and he goes through the whole thing about, you think I'm weak, but I'm not. I'm just overly optimistic and I treat people with kindness, and that's the way that I fight. That's the way that I survive. Like she hears that dialogue and that's what changes her mind. And then all of a sudden she looks at her husband with googly eyes. Like that doesn't feel resolved because Waymond, like her husband Waymond, is not a very well developed character in this movie. No. He's just a very docile, whatever, I want more affection husband without a lot of, there's nothing. Like
so he's there. So when you get that dialogue and that conversation between the two of them,
doesn't she?
It seemed like it was a side topic. It didn't seem like it was the main topic.
Yeah, she signs the divorce papers. She signs the divorce papers when she has her. She's in the laundromat and she has a meltdown because they're getting ready to seize it, and she just starts breaking windows. Like right before that, she signs the divorce papers. Like it feels really whoa.
Yeah.
But then how just everything turns around, and at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, never mind. Forget about this bagel. Forget about me wanting a better life. Forget about me wanting to divorce my husband. Like, forget about all of this. I want my family now. And then everything all of a sudden just turns around with nothing to kind of tie everything together.
Yeah.
It's one of the only complaints I have about this. And the ending is, I'm satisfied with the way that it ended. I just wish there was a little bit more. I think this movie could have been fixed if Waymond was better told.
Developed.
I think more to his story could have been added.
Yeah.
I think that could have fixed it. I think that could have fixed
that being said, That being said, there probably was some stuff that was cut out.
More than likely,
character.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we're missing it.
Left on the cutting room floor. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
Because even if you do add a lot to his story, how much more to the movie would it really add?
Right. I mean, but it would explain the ending more. Like it would give you more of a connection to, what and where and why. And I think that's the biggest thing is just, we've talked about this so many times. If the movie has a bad ending, for me, it ruins the whole ending. Or it ruins the whole movie. So, for example, White Noise. I'm always going to bring it up, White Noise. It was such a, the three ghosts, and they live in the White Noise, and you're dead. Oh, wait, what? This whole movie led up to that, and it's over? Like, it was such a rushed ending, and it ruined the whole thing for me, so I refused to rent that out to people when they came into the store, You
refused?
That and Alone. Yeah, no. There were 3 movies. It was White Noise, Alone in the Dark.
No, you can't watch that. I want to pay you money to watch. No, you can't do that. I'm sorry.
This is how this works, sir. I am giving you money. You give me movie.
I stood by my principles, and I had a lot of people who backed me up, and they would only come in on the days that I was working because they wanted my opinion on what's to rent next. I was like, okay. So I really enjoyed that job. I'm not puffing myself up. I'm saying like this is what actually happened. So there was one guy who fought and was really upset. I'm like, listen, I will not rent this movie to you, sir. And they're like, why not? And I'm like, because I would not wish this upon my worst enemy. I'm like, listen, if you want to wait 5 more minutes for my employee to come back, you can rent it from him, but I'm not going to take that money from you and be able to sleep tonight. So he's like, okay, fine. Like, and he chose something else.
Wow.
And then later on, he ended up seeing it anyway and came back and he goes, I should have listened to you.
Wow.
But I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could have saved you $4.57, but
Okay.
no, the reality is like there are some movies that are just like, oh man, it killed it. It ruined the whole thing. And this is not that. I'm not comparing this to anything like that. But the thing is,
No.
you know,
The ending does not
definitely
ruin this movie.
no, not at all. The movie itself is something that I will watch again. I will laugh my butt off
Yes.
at. So all in all, this movie is exactly what I expected when I first saw the first trailer and read about it months ago. We're, you know, in the spring. I knew that this was going to be something that we should talk about, and I'm surprised that we didn't do it sooner. But I mean, we've had a lot of stuff on our plate, so that's that. But I'm glad that we did it. So
All right. Chuck, final thoughts?
One final
while
thought.
you chew.
I know.
one final thought.
I got hungry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens.
Why wait?
I didn't know what to expect going into this movie. And I'm so thankful for that. Because unlike Multiverse of Madness, we went in expecting something and got something completely different.
We went into Multiverse of Madness expecting a lot.
Right.
It advertised itself as a lot.
Yep.
It advertised itself as Doctor Strange goes to Wanda to seek help to fix the broken multiverse, which is not the movie.
Nope.
At all.
Nope.
Like even if that was his intention, it was not clear that was his intention.
Nope.
His intention was to save her, and then he immediately realized that she was the bad guy. So,
Like,
yeah,
immediately
not at all.
she says it.
Yeah.
You do this and you're the good guy. I do this and I'm the bad guy. Like, yeah.
Doesn't seem fair.
Not what I was expecting going into it, but then again, I had no expectations. All I knew was everybody was saying that this is what Multiverse of Madness should have been.
Should have been.
Mhm.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I have to say, for the first time in a long time, everybody was right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Like the
Yep.
the innuendos and the toys and all that kind of stuff that happens with the movie. It is weird. It's disturbing in some cases, but it fits.
It works.
It works.
It works so well.
There's no
Yep.
real way to explain how it works. It just does.
It did.
It does. It's like I go back to They Live and I'm like, that fight scene, if it was in any other movie, would have been horrible. But in that movie, it worked. This movie, everything in it worked, and it was fantastic. And I was hysterically laughing at so many parts. I was disgusted at a few parts. I felt sad. The rock scene was fantastic. The bagel scene was fantastic. The restoration of the family in the roundabout way that it happened was great.
Yep.
I think it was a fantastic movie through and through. I don't think the ending was that rushed. I think it was fine, but to each their own in that case. But
That's fine.
overall, it was a fantastic leap. It was put together well. It was written well. I think the only thing I had a hard time with was the back and forth between reading the movie and trying to watch the movie. I'm not a fan of subtitles because I feel like I'm missing out on the actual film by trying to read it. But other than that, that's my only real complaint about it. Other than that, it was great.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with subtitles. I can do both. It's not that big of a deal for me.
I can if it's like sprinkled in here and there.
Okay.
This was like a good half the movie.
Yeah, a lot of it was subtitles.
So
Yeah.
I remember when I first saw the preview for it, I was thinking two things. One, I really hope it's not subtitled, and two, I really hope it's not overdubbed. Like I wanted this to be a movie where it's like the people are actually acting and speaking the language they're speaking. So at least we knew that they were speaking the language that we were hearing the entire time, and the subtitles were only half of it. So for me, I easily was I was accepting of what we got.
Oh, I was accepting of it. It's just I don't like reading a movie.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that it was what it was, because if it was 100% either overdubbed or subtitled, I would have been distracted by the wrong mouth movements or having to read it. Right. So I was happy with what it was.
So like foreign film, not your thing?
Not my thing. No.
Chuck?
I mean, it depends. I mean, if it's a silent film and there's only a couple of dialogue pieces that were written in there, I'm fine with that. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, stuff like that, old German expressionism, whatnot.
See, I'm used to like the old, like Jackie Chan, where the whole thing is dubbed in English. So I don't mind that. I would prefer that than having to read it.
Oh yeah, Will's a huge Godzilla fan, so there's that.
And those are overdubbed horribly.
Yes, they are. Yeah,
they are overdubbed terribly.
Is there a creature on this planet that Godzilla hasn't fought?
No.
I mean, giant moths.
It's everything.
Everything.
Giant moths.
Yeah.
Crazy thing is Godzilla's the good guy.
Yeah.
In some of them.
In those. In those.
Most, but sometimes Godzilla's the villain. Like Godzilla's a weird one because it started out as like an anti-war, anti-nuclear like message for Japanese audiences, but then like slowly after a few films it morphed into, oh wait a minute, let's just make him the good guy in some movies. Like we don't like it's weird. Godzilla has a really weird mythology.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Same universe as King Kong. But hey.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, the thing is, we've seen some odd overdubs. I mean, we can go right to I've had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Sure.
Or give me the keys, you fairy godmother. Some really crazy stuff that we've seen peppered in, but I can't do a full on just like
a full overdub.
No, I have. For the Godzilla films, I've watched probably a good 5 or 6 of the oldies.
Watching like old, it's more jarring in like kung fu movies.
Yeah,
like old 60s, 70s styles kung fu movies. I can't name any off the top of my head. I've seen whenever they're on TV, I always glance over and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Like the fight scenes are awesome. The sound effects for the fight scenes are awesome. But then once they start getting into dialogue and the lips are not in sync and like there are certain sound effects going on that aren't like visually they should not be audible at all. It's like, well, okay, this is zapping me.
It takes you out of it. And that's the thing is like there are certain things that movies do that take you out of it. So overdubbing like that for not vocals, but actual dialogue, yes, big time. But that's why I was going back to the Adam Project when they used foreplay, from Boston in that movie. It was so not fitting for that scene, that fight scene near the end, that it took me out of the movie, and I'm like, this is garbage. Like, I love that song. It's fantastic. Leads into Long Time, which is a great song off their self-titled album. I've got it on vinyl. It's one of my favorite songs.
Not
my
the
favorite
biggest
albums.
fan of Boston.
I know, that's fine. I mean, what I love about Boston is they were one of the earlier. The guitarist there created a pedal. Basically, they gave him the twin setting, so when he played live, he can have the twin guitar, the harmonizing guitars, and that's what I loved about their sound is they always had that harmonizing guitar sound. So in the album, you can hear he's playing it, and then he plays it again, but live he had a pedal that he created that would give him that double sound. Then again, maybe I'm wrong and I just heard the wrong thing, but that's what I always heard and I thought was fantastic. Because I just love twin guitar. But regardless, the point is that song did not fit in that random fight scene. Like it could have been used in a different movie for something like a heist or people are running away, being chased. Like remember when they threw in Carol of the Bells or in Hawkeye. Dun, 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 whatever that song is, like that fit in really well. Dun 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 dun, and it kind of built up, and you're like, oh, I wonder how this is gonna work, and it fit perfectly. It was great. You know, like you didn't expect it, it worked, and that's fine. But moving this in there, it took me out of the whole movie, and I couldn't even watch the scene. It seemed as though somebody was just playing it on the radio in the background. So audio is a huge deal, and if you don't use it well, you know, whether it's dialogue or music or sound effects, if it's not done well, it can really just ruin that immersion into what you're watching.
Yeah.
You know, when you're making a movie, when you're making a show or anything cinematic, you want the audience to feel like they're really being immersed into that universe, like they're witnessing it, they're feeling it. That's why the movie theater is so great, and they've been, you know, trying to come up with like D-Box and all those different things where it's like, oh, the seats move and they vibrate and you've got these crazy subwoofers and it feels like you're really there, you know, and VR and all that stuff. But, you know, the reality is it's something simple as I could watch it on a 32-inch screen or smaller and enjoy it as long as they're doing things right where they, you know, in the way they actually produce the film itself.
I'm over the movie theater experience, to be honest. I prefer to watch something on my own. I'm at that point in my life where I'm like, theater, money, crowds.
I will say there are certain things that make sense to watch in a theater. If you're watching something like Jurassic World, for example, I want to see the dinosaurs be huge. I want giant dinosaurs, you know? If I'm going to watch something, you know, like the movie Gravity, seeing that in IMAX 3D was amazing.
Yes, it was.
Amazing.
Yes, it was. I will agree with you on this.
I can't imagine watching that now. I did watch it later on.
It's not the same.
on a
that I will.
It was like a
60-inch. It was not the same.
It was a 60-inch screen.
Yeah.
Still very big, good surround sound, but still I'm kind of like, the movie's okay.
As a spectacle to see in the theater or in IMAX.
Absolutely, dude. I was holding my breath when she was like running out of air and trying to get here and there. I felt like I was there, and that's the whole point. When you make something like that, you know, even like Quiet Place, when you're sitting there holding your breath so you don't make a peep because you're afraid that the aliens are going to hear you, whatever.
That movie's a movie, for example, that I much prefer that I watch it at home. Because if you go to the theater and you see that movie, like other people are around you, cell phones are going off, people are making noise, that's going to take you out of the immersion.
Yep. I watched that movie with headphones on.
Oh,
like I sat there on my laptop watching it with headphones on. And it was perfect because I was totally drowned, like everything else is drowned out. It was great. I had that going while I was, I was here, and I'm like, and it was funny because when the first movie was over, I immediately put on the second movie.
Oh, wow.
And I watched some of it. So I think I watched the first movie in two parts. Like one day I watched the first half, then I watched the second half, and I loved it so much I immediately put on the second one. So I was like, okay, you know, I wanted to get through. I had the time, and I watched it. And yeah, really well done. But that's the whole thing is audio. You know, if one thing is off, then to me it's like you really get knocked out of the, you know, the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I believe we lost Chuck. So
I'm still here.
No, we're done.
No. You totally fell asleep for a moment.
No, I've been
We're
listening to you the whole time.
I know. Just
it
like
doesn't matter. We're out of here anyways. We're done for the night.
I'm fading fast.
Yeah, that's why I'm calling it right now, man. Don't worry. All right. Well, anyways, we're done.
Well, good morning, everybody.
We are done. We're gonna get out of here. That's it.
It was fun, guys. Have a great one.
See you later.
Have a good one, everybody.